You get fired.
I get what?
You got fired from that.
Hey, that's good. I love being fired.
Okay. We'll get started.
No.
Try it again.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 11th meeting of the Greenland Board of Selectmen, starting with call the roll. To my right,
Vaughn Morgan, Justin Duraki.
Paul Sanderson.
Jim Ralston. Chip Hussey.
Okay, first on our agenda tonight is the fire department roof. Chief Preston, then you have a guest for us.
Yep, Justin from Tactor America is here. He's going to give us a quote on the roof. He's going to explain what the quote is. Justin?
So I prepared, I'll hand out some of these here. There's a CAD drawing that we put together just showing the layout of the roof. But we came out, investigated the current roof, and for those of you who haven't seen what the roof looks like, I'll bring these out so that everybody can see. But basically what's up on the roof there is it's an existing metal building. There's a metal roof that's up on, there was an existing structure, and as I understand, there was some leaking shortly after it was put into place. So there's a spray foam roof that's up there. What we found when we did some core testing up there is that there's about a 4-foot high section from the edge of the roof up that runs the entire length of the building on either side that's wet. And also there's various areas up on the roof that are also wet. So after doing some research and making sure that the spec that we're putting together is to code, we're going to recommend removing the spray foam insulation that's up there, getting down to the existing metal deck. In some of the pictures that we took, you'll notice that on the underside of some of the metal panels, there is a little bit of surface rust that's there. So from the core cuts that we did some large 12 by 12 cuts. It doesn't look like any of the integrity to the metal has been damaged, but certainly the water is infiltrating the spray foam because it's disintegrating and the coating is actually gone over a large portion of the roof, and it's kind of trapped in between that insulation and the metal. So what we're going to propose is removing the existing spray foam roof, getting down to the clean surface, and then with the metal roofs, you're going to have, there's a rib, and then there's a flat pan section, and then there's another rib. So we need to fill that void in between the ribs, so we use what's called a fluke filler. It almost looks like a popcorn material. EPS is what it's referred to as. So we'll install EPS. It doesn't really have an R value, but that's going to fill in that void and get us a nice smooth surface. And then from there, we're recommending using this product here. And it's in the industry, it's there used to be various types of insulation that were used. Wood fiber was very popular years ago. It's a very porous insulation, so if it does get wet, it instantly gets soaked and never dries. So this product has been around for quite some time now. It's pretty much industry standard, so it's an extruded insulation product. We're recommending 1.5 inches up there for you guys. So you'll have your EPS, which really doesn't even give you an R value of 1. That's going to give you an R value of 9. It's an appropriate amount of thickness up there. If there is any traffic on the roof, which there really shouldn't be because you don't have any rooftop units or even any penetrations, there's a satellite dish, and that's pretty much it. You know, that's perfectly capable of handling people walking around. So we're going to recommend that insulation, and then we're going to do what's called fully adhering, a rubber membrane. So the membrane comes in a thickness of 060, which is mils, which is how they measure the thickness of that. That's, again, pretty much industry standard. For you guys where you don't have any traffic up there, I wouldn't recommend spending the additional funds in using a thicker membrane. If you had a lot of traffic, we could look at alternative products, but that's a product that we'd recommend for you up there. So the process would be removing everything. We would have like snow fencing set up on the perimeter of the roof to try to catch the spray foam as we're tearing that off. A lot of times it comes off in small pieces. So our plan is we'll install snow fencing around the perimeter of the roof. We'll have a couple guys on the ground that'll be there for cleanup. At the end of the day, we clean up, but we'll have a dumpster on site. We'll dispose of all of that. We then install a wood nailer to the perimeter that will accommodate the insulations, because if you didn't put that on there, today what there is, the edge metal is basically just holding all that foam on. So that piece of metal that runs along the whole front, that's what's holding on the insulation, the spray foam right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a solid wood block around the edge. We'll install the flute filler and then that 1.5 inches of ISO. That gets mechanically attached, so there'll be metal plates that'll get fastened through the insulation and then down into the metal deck itself, and that's what'll hold the insulation itself on. And then the rubber membrane will get glued, and then that'll get laid out on the roof. We use 3-inch cover tape on any of the seams. Again, you guys don't have any penetrations up there, so there's no penetrations that have to worry about flashing. The edge metal that we'll use, it's a 24 gauge steel. You have your choice of colors on that. So that will all get bent pretty much to match the existing profile that's there. And once the job's complete, you'll get a 20-year total system warranty from the manufacturer. So that covers, basically Tecta will own the roof for the first 2 years. So if there was any issue at all, you would call us, we'd come out, we'd take care of it free of charge. After the second year, you're on your manufacturer's warranty, and they cover anything and everything to do with the membrane itself. So, and then the labor that's associated with that. So.
That's for 20 years?
Yes. Yep. And what will happen is when the project's complete, a representative, myself, probably my project manager, and then a representative from the manufacturer will come out. They'll do a final site walk. If there's any punch list items that they find, we take care of those. And then once that's complete, you'll get your official warranty from the manufacturer. So, so after the project's done, we do our own walkthrough and inspection of the roof, and then the manufacturer will come out, and you're more than welcome to have anybody attend that final walkthrough with us. From start to finish, we're estimating a couple of weeks, so probably 2 weeks we'd be here. There really shouldn't be, other than the screwing, a whole lot of noise. When we're tearing off the existing spray foam up there, that might be the only time where there might be some guys on the ground walking around, but other than that, everything's up on the roof. So we really shouldn't be too invasive, to the property here. So.
Just out of curiosity, how long has Tecta America been in business?
So Tecta America is a national company. So they're basically, we were formerly Delta Roofing. Delta Roofing's been around since 1988. In 2008, Tecta America approached Delta, and they didn't have a presence in the Northeast. So Peter Owens is our regional president. He was part owner of the 5 Delta branches in New England, and Delta was purchased in 2008 by Tecta America. So what Tecta did for Delta is it gave them a national presence and the backing and all those things that a big national company does. But the reality is that all of our decisions are still made locally here. So our head branch for New England is in North Billerica, Massachusetts. So we've got Portland, Maine branch, which I'm out of. I'm the sales rep for Maine and Eastern New Hampshire. And then we have North Billerica, we've got Hanover, and then we have a location we just moved into Hartford, Connecticut, and then we have a location in upstate New York. So between those 5 branches, we cover the entire New England region. So to answer your question, Delta's been around for 30 years, and this is our 30th anniversary. So.
Okay. On your quote here,
Yep.
you have the 49.9.
Yep.
I think what you described, and then there's the alternate, which has to do with diverters.
Yep. So on these roofs up here now, you guys really don't have much of a pitch on this roof. So there is some snow shed and water shed right now that you're experiencing. We're going to be building the roof up a little bit. It's not going to be significant, obviously, with adding actually in your case, you won't. Normally we're adding it, we're building it up a little bit. We're going to be removing 4 inches and coming back with about 2 inches. So in your case, we're actually decreasing the pitch a little bit, but normally you're increasing it a little. So what happens is over entryways or over the doors for the trucks, we recommend snow diverters. And the reason for that is when the snow sheds off the roof, it'll generally come down fairly quickly and aggressively. So any entry doors or overhead doors, what we do is we'll install wood blocking. And for your layout here, because normally what we do is if you have, say, an 8-foot door, we would have it shed out a couple, 2-3 feet on either side. But we don't have that ability here because there's only a couple feet in between each door. So no matter what's gonna happen, it's gonna be dispersed. So we're gonna stagger the diverters so that the diverters cover the entire span, but you're not doing one solid piece. So there'll be a piece, another piece, a piece, and another piece is the way we'll install that. And then what'll happen is, and I believe that we were recommending 10-foot sections up there. So there'll be 3 layers of wood blocking that'll get installed. So the first layer will actually get bolted directly to the beams or the purlins in the building, and then the next 2 layers get countersunk. So you'll have a wood structure that's 10 feet wide, 10 feet long, and then when the guys, that'll be one of the first steps of the process, and then when the guys come through, they'll flash that wood right into the roof system. So you'll end up getting diverters that'll have a 20-year warranty on that as well. So the membrane for the diverters and then the blocking itself will all be a part of that full system warranty. So.
Okay.
And that's a situation, and Ralph and I have spoke about this as well, where not every building needs it. I always try to recommend to people that or give them the foresight to say, we may or may not need it. Ralph has 2 buildings, one of which did need it and one of which it didn't. So, similar style buildings, similar style pitches, but, for you guys there, knowing that those doors have to be clear and, there's a good chance that the snow is going to affect those overheads there. I put that in there as an alternate for you guys, and we would recommend it. The only other option that you would have there is you could wait and see after the first year how it goes, and then from there you could decide if you want to add, have us come back at a later time to do that. So, but our recommendation would be to just do it in the initial shot, and then it's done, and then you don't have to worry about it. But I always like to have it in there as an add because it's not something you absolutely have to have, but it's a recommendation that we put out there. So.
If in the process you find that we have the metal up there that's rusted and in fact has to be replaced, how is that provided for in the quote?
So what we would do is we would, anytime that we run into either rot or metal deck that's failing up there, what we do is we'd basically treat it on a time and materials basis, or we could give you a solid price. So the project would stop, I would come down, speak with whoever I need to speak to and say, here's what we found, here's what needs to be done. We can either, get everything torn and figure out what the whole cost will be, or we can do it on a time and materials basis. So based on what we're seeing, I don't foresee that being an issue. The areas where we saw the surface rust was on the underside, on the overhang. So in that area is wet. So again, you have from the eave or the edge of the roof up 4 feet. That's really, you could literally, when you cut that insulation out, you could literally wring it out like a sponge. It's that wet. So. So that, that area where I saw the surface rust, again, is underneath that section. Out of the 4 test cuts that we did 2 at the edge and 2 more up in the field. The 2 in the field were pretty dry. There were some areas when we were walking around up there that you can feel they're soft, and spongy. So I didn't want to do a million test cuts up there. I got what I needed out of the 4 that I did. So we know that the edge is definitely soaking wet. We know that the field is fairly dry, but then there's definitely some areas where if you go through those photos, you'll see the coating's completely gone. And then unfortunately the spray foam is disintegrating as well up there. So the weather's just taking its toll on it, so.
Okay. I'm just wondering here, should we make some sort of a provision in here? Because that time and material could explode on us if we're not careful.
Sure.
Because we do have limited in our appropriations.
Yeah, we from doing a check on the interior and from doing what we found up there, we don't foresee any deck work needing to be replaced. We really don't. So even in the areas where we did the test cuts and it was wet, there was no surface rust on the top of the roof. It's only on the underside. So that could also be the water was running down off the roof, running down the edge metal that's there and then wicking back. And as a result, so that could be the other factor there, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that, you've trapped all that moisture in your roof system up there. So we really don't foresee any of that happening. If there is any, my guess is that it would be very minimal, you know, if anything at all. But as of right now, we don't foresee you needing any kind of deck replacement or anything like that up there, so.
Anyone else have any other questions?
The venting system on the backside of the building, are any conditions for protecting that from snow taking it out?
So the one that comes off the side?
Sidewall venting on the backside.
Yeah, so that, the vent that comes out the side,
You're talking about the far side here? I'm talking the ones out in the parking lot.
There's four
blue
heaters,
vents for the heaters.
oh, on the underside there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, if it hasn't been an issue for you guys now, I don't foresee it being an issue. So if the snow coming off the roof hasn't been presenting an issue, sometimes what people will do is they'll build like boxes to cover those in the wintertime. Is it actually running in the winter and venting?
Heaters.
The heaters, they're running, that's all brand new. It was up against the building before, and we extended the proper installation by the manufacturer this summer.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've seen where people will build boxes that'll fit around the actual stacks where everything vents out. But again, if you guys aren't having an issue with snow shedding off now and creating an issue, I don't foresee it being an issue in the future, so.
Okay, any other questions?
Ralph, your thoughts on the diverters?
The diverters, I didn't think I needed them on my second building I just did, but it depends on the winter, of course. And we had the hot and cold winter this past year, and the ice was building up, and that's when we had a problem sliding it off. My first building we haven't had one problem at all. The second one I did was just hot and cold all winter. I'd put the diverters in,
You would.
yes.
Can we put 4 diverters on top in front of those heater vents and then get diverting around it?
Did you put that in there, Justin, to both?
No, I didn't have, I had diverters for the man door on the parking lot side, and then I had diverters for the overhead doors on the back side.
I don't think you're gonna crush that pipe. But whatever, that's fine.
The ice coming on, snow won't, ice will. If it was a steeper pitch, I think the snow will come off faster.
Yeah,
But we're so shallow, it's gonna be ice coming off that.
Yeah.
It will take out those vents.
okay,
That's why we pushed them back against the building.
sure.
Initially, then we noticed it was advancing corrosion.
Yeah, I mean, if that's a concern, then I can absolutely figure a cost to add a diverter into that section, that's no problem at all.
Would they have to be 10 footers?
No, I'll take a look at it, because I'm not even sure I know exactly which ones you guys are talking about. The only,
It's the pipes coming out of the parking lot.
yeah, I'd have to look at it though. I know that, so the vent that's coming off the side of the building is the one I thought you were
I think
originally
it's
talking about.
that one on this end,
Yeah.
that's another problem for another day.
Yeah. But but my point to that was that won't affect us anyway.
No, that's gonna be, the heating vents will definitely have I'm pretty sure gonna have an issue, because all the buildings that
Okay.
didn't protect them went down.
Yeah, and I've seen where that does happen, so that's why I always say if it's happening now, it is definitely
That's
gonna
gonna
happen
be
with the new
something
roof.
maybe more than the diverter may have to be put on there, so take a look at that and see what you say.
I can definitely take a look at that.
And any sealing on the roof after it's complete, that 20 years, do we have to maintain it?
So every manufacturer does recommend that you do maintain the roof, and I always say, would you go buy a new car and never change the oil on it? So for you guys, there's no drains, there's no penetrations, so, you know, it literally could be somebody going up there. We do annual inspections, and it would probably be very minimal for us to do an inspection, you know, $300-400, something like that, for us to come out once a year and inspect that. But we probe all the seams up there, we check the diverters, we check the edge metal, but it's pretty simple. Normally when I'm going up on a roof to do those, there's drains and parapet walls and curbs for units, but you guys just don't have that. So it's a very simple, straightforward roof. So, but yeah, definitely, if say you never had anybody come out and look at the roof, and God forbid there was a claim that you had to put in, all the manufacturers, they generally will still stand behind them. And because of our presence nationally and how large we are, when we have issues with material, we generally just get our claims through. But I always tell people there is a chance they could say, look, you haven't had anybody up on this roof in 15 years, now you have a claim, you know, so it's a way for them to, you know, to maybe circumvent that. But 9 times out of 10,
So realistically, if someone goes on that roof that knows what they're looking at, every 2 years, we should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only thing you'll be looking for on your roof is the actual seams that are up there, making sure that all the intersections are good and making sure that the edge metal's good. Other than that, there's nothing else to see. There's nothing, so.
I'm not sure that satellite's even being used there to find out.
Yeah, and that was the last piece too, is if it is in use, we'll obviously have to move it. So when we move it
I
back,
think it is.
there could be, you may need to contact the
That's not
provider.
coming. I don't even know what it was for, do you?
Looks like it's like a
It was, I think, National Fire Academy, and I don't think they're doing that anymore. They webcast it, it's cheaper.
Okay, any other questions from the board? If not, do I have a motion?
Jim?
I have
Oh,
a
sorry.
question, if I may. Just so the board is understanding that the R38 is what's required in this climate zone, and you're only putting up an R9, from what I understand. Has the board considered at least doubling that to an R18? You would get return on your investment very quickly, as far as energy efficiency goes inside the building where it is a
The
conditioned space.
installation's already there.
Yeah, we have insulation on the inside also, so there's your R value.
What is the insulation on the inside?
Do you know what that is?
Fiberglass, I think it's rated 3.5.
And I don't think it's very much. You have 4 inches of foam up there now.
Yeah, I don't know what the original art value of that foam was, but I can tell you that whatever it was, it's probably rated for about 1/10 of what it was now. I mean, if you haven't seen the photos yet, there's literally holes up in the roof up there. So, in terms of so each manufacturer, certain manufacturers recommend a minimum thickness of the insulation that we work with. Some manufacturers will let you get away with using a 1/2 inch, they call it a high density board. So it's got it's more or less a cover board, it's got a thicker top sheet to it. We generally always recommend, it's similar R value between a 1 inch and a 1/2 inch. We usually recommend going with the thicker insulation. In this case, we're recommending going with a 1.5. So in terms of what needs to be met on the manufacturer's side, that 1.5 more than covers it. But again, if you wanted to add more insulation, it's obviously going to add cost to the project. We can go up to whatever you want, and truly whatever you want, because normally we have curbs to worry about, or we have drains that we have to take into consideration. Sky's the limit for you guys up there. The only thing that's going to happen is we're going to have to, as you add insulation, you have to add wood blocking to the perimeter. And then the more blocking you add, the larger your edge metal is going to be. So you got to take that into account too. Because if you go with like 5 inches of insulation up there, you're going to have a much bigger edge metal than you have now to accommodate for that nailer that we need. So in addition to the added cost for the insulation, there'd be added cost for the nailer and the edge metal, because you're going to have a bigger piece of metal the whole way around. So.
Did you, well, you do this all the time, did you size the building? You've seen the inside of the building, everything else.
Mhm.
Do we need any more, or do you think this will
Insulation?
suffice? Yeah.
I mean, you get better R value from like the bagged, the insulation that you have on the interior anyways than you do with this product here. So if you were truly going to look at, trying to increase R value, I wouldn't be trying to do it through the polyiso. I would be trying to achieve it through insulating the interior, because you're going to get more bang for your buck that way as well. So, but from what, if I truly believe that this 1.5 inches of polyiso is going to give you a better R value rating, much better than what you currently have up there right now, because of the condition that it's in. So.
That's in the bays that this is going to be in, by the way. The living space has foam insulation both in the walls and in the ceiling. So, really the bays don't have to be kept above 60 degrees most of the time.
Right, and the fate of that building is still uncertain if a new fire department gets voted in. So, I mean, this is about a roof. We need to add insulation. That can happen in the interior in the future, not knowing what we're gonna do with that building, if the plan is to go ahead with the new fire station. So I would make a motion to go forward with the rubber roof on the fire department not to exceed $59,000 in case there's any damage, unknown damage. And because I see no conflict of interest anywhere, I would waive the bidding process, which I normally would not.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. The only thing, would you add to it that if in fact the bid comes back and that we authorize the town administrator to sign the contract?
Yes.
Okay. So with that potential amendment, any other discussion? If not, all those in, oh, Ralph, you had a question?
Do you have the completion date, you would have it done if they sign this contract?
Yeah, so what I can do is I can try to get, ideally for us, if we could start this project in the fall, that would be great. We've got a pretty full schedule this summer. If you said it had to be done this summer, I'd try to find a way to make it happen. But ideally for us, if we could do this in the fall, that'd be great. The one thing I did mention to Ralph is that we'd be willing to, there's no leaking currently today. In the event that you guys have a leak that comes up, I can put in there in the contract that we'd be willing to come down and take care of, the repair at no charge, because you guys are waiting till the fall to allow us to do that, so.
Do you think you could have it done by October 15th, so we can put a date on it?
Yeah, hard date.
Yeah, let me just confirm that in the morning.
You'll be getting with probably Karen on that, right?
Okay, yep. Yeah, I can let Karen know in the morning for sure.
I think we're generally safe November 1st, something like that, just before snow.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, we'd want to get to it before snow anyways, because of the rip that we're doing up there with tearing all that off. So I'd like to think that we could get to it in September. So I would think having it completed by the middle of October would be fine, but I just want to confirm that with my general manager tomorrow, because he does all the scheduling, so.
Okay, that being the case, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Okay, thank you very much.
Justin, you got Karen's number and everything?
Yes, it is.
She's looking for the card. Sorry.
What's that?
Yeah, so I will, give you a call in the morning, and then, send the contract. Okay. So I'll make the changes to that.
I'm not standing because you walked in.
Okay, so public hearing, to a public hearing acceptance of donation $200 to the fire department from the Girl Scout troop.
Yes, we received $200 from Girl Scout Troop 5.031, which is a brownie troop from Greenland. They had their cookie sale and the profits that their troop made. They all decided that they wanted to donate it to the fire department, so it will be used towards the new dispatch console.
Okay. Any comment from the board? If not, any comment from members of the public, being public hearing?
I didn't hear what she said. It's going to be used for what?
Oh, towards a new dispatch console for the fire department.
Yes.
Okay, any other public comment? If not, I'll take a motion from the board.
I move to accept the $200 donation to the fire department from Girl Scout Troop 51031.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. It is unanimous.
And I'd also like to say on behalf of the town that I extend our gratitude to the Girl Scout troop.
Yes, okay. Okay, now perfect timing, Chief.
So sorry, I was like,
Renaming Denver roads. So I will recognize you to explain the situation.
For the last probably 3 or 4 years, we've been going through the town and updating and trying to get closer to 911 standardization recommendations. So we are working with, obviously, the state.
Okay.
And the idea really is to make it so addresses are easier for people to respond to in an emergency. So police, fire, mutual aid from other towns to be able to get to different addresses. There's many different sides to the standardization. We have gone through phases where driveways with multiple houses off of them, 3 or more, we've named them roads. We've had odds on the wrong side and evens and incremental problems, and we've had all sorts of different things come up, which is really expected because we have a historical we have a historical town, and it's been this way for so long. Tonight, obviously, addressing this is kind of a big chunk, and a big problem in Greenland has been everything is named some sort of bay. So we've had all sorts of different bay names that we've been working on and changing. And more so than the Great Bay Road name was the intersection of Dearborn Road and Great Bay Road. When someone approaches that intersection, the most logical response is you go straight, you're staying on the same road, no matter what the road name is. So in addition to having, we've literally had calls where we've gone to the wrong section. We've had mutual aid calls where people are asking for directions a lot. That's very common. And so we really were trying to come up with a way to keep the names of Dearborn Road and Great Bay Road, because they're both very important in our town, and I think historical. And so just by extending Dearborn Road all the way to the 33 intersection allows that to make more sense moving forward. And instead of doing the typical 50-foot increments that 911 recommends, in order to not affect every single address on Dearborn, we went ahead and did 72-foot increments, just so that there's a handful, 12 or 15 places that don't have to change their address. And then obviously as you go beyond our normal Dearborn, there's Great Bay Drive, which was very confusing with Great Bay Road. So that would continue to be Dearborn. So it would make logical sense in that way. So we worked on this. Obviously, the main goal is to get to your house as quickly as possible and help you. There's also, along this stretch that I didn't realize there are so many in-law apartments and multi-unit houses. So we found quite a bit of those that we weren't, either the town wasn't aware of, or the 911 wasn't aware of, or us. So I think that's another important part to this. As they went through and GPS this as is, they found, the multiple doors and things like that. And so we need to make that standardized addressing too, because, you can't just do 2 and 2A and 2B and 2C, 1 and, all those types of things. It just adds seconds and minutes onto us being able to find where you are. The fire chief, obviously, and I, and the emergency management director, and actually the building inspector and code enforcement, we try to work as a team and try and come up with this. And Charlotte does most of the actual work. So I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. I know changing the address is awful. It's never any fun. We try and make it as least awful as possible. We'll send you a packet in the mail with instructions of everybody you need to update. We do utilities, we do the post office for you. So really it's a matter of, we give you a form letter to send to your mortgage company. And we really try and make it as easy as possible. Also, we'd like to make this effective January, so that way it doesn't mess your Christmas up or delivering packages or anything like that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Marilyn Page. I live on 7 Great Bay Drive.
Okay.
And I guess I find a lot of this curious, but that's okay. One thing I find curious, if we're trying to make this logical, and by the way, nobody's ever had trouble finding my house, so I kind of think there might be a communication thing with the emergency personnel, FedEx. It doesn't matter. People find my house. And there's not even a road sign that tells you when you go over the railroad tracks, you're on Great Bay Drive. It's a mystery. But anyway, to me, I thought residents were going to have a say in this, but it looks like it's already been decided. But
this is just our recommendation.
Okay. Because to me, what would be logical is, and I don't particularly care what the names are. I'm trying to think, if you're going to do this, why not? Everybody knows, just about everybody, it seems like, they know where Great Bay Road is off of 33. So why would we change that to Dearborn Road? Why not have Great Bay Road go straight for 2 miles all the way down to the T and have the curve become another road?
The reason for that, we did consider that. The reason that that was a difficult change would be that there would be Great Bay Road as it exists. So we would have people that were old 6 Great Bay Road and new 6 Great Bay Road. And so it would be more difficult because someone would have already had that address and then we're changing it in the middle. So people would be like, well, I lived at Great Bay Road, but it was the old one. Now I live, you know what I mean? So in making it Dearborn and leaving Great Bay Road as part of it, it's not kind of redoing the recycling.
If I could add on to that, some of the feedback that we've heard in past public hearings is that it sounds like 911 is trying to remove the history of our community. And so really part of the effort was to make sure that we were able to retain Dearborn. And I mean, you guys had like 6 or 7 bays and shores to choose from. I believe that it's probably up for discussion as to which one remains. However, knowing the feedback previously, we were trying to leave the road names in a manner that both could be retained. And then the second point about that is that, again, we're trying to lessen the impact. If extending Great Bay Road is ultimately the decision that the Board of Selectmen makes, it will impact every single address on what is currently Great Bay Road, Dearborn, and Great Bay Drive. So that is something to consider, and certainly if the board feels that the best solution to that is to rename that entire road Great Bay Road, then 911 will support that. Really, what we're here to do is promote logical addressing and help communities when they identify these problematic intersections find a way to rework it so that it makes sense. Because I sat with the chief at that intersection and we watched people back down the middle of the road because they couldn't figure out which way Great Bay Road went. And I think that on some levels
too. I mean, no matter what you do,
there
you've
are
got to
signs up there to begin with.
But I mean, like on my street, it doesn't even say what road you're on.
No,
So
I have
right,
had problems
yeah.
finding your road, not particularly your house because I wasn't looking for it.
Right.
But part of our process is driving every single one of these roads and GPSing where every single residence and every driveway is.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have seen it. And the argument can be made that signage could help, but signage is ultimately a Band-Aid to the issue. It really is.
But I agree with what she said. If the selectmen want to name it, you know, Razzle Dazzle Road and whatever, I'm totally fine with that. We are trying to be cognizant of the historical nature.
Like I said, what you said made sense, because if somebody used to be 6 Great Bay Road,
right,
and now
someone else is 6 Great Bay.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And that's what I said. I'm curious, why did you, because to me, the logical thing is Great Bay Road all the way down to the bay.
Right.
And then it would be very easy to have Great Bay East and West. I mean, that to me makes sense.
Well, Great Bay East and West are being recommended for change as well.
Oh, I know that. I'm just saying it would be, you know, but you're trying to cut down how many people that you inconvenience, and there you go, there's a lot of people.
Oh, there's a lot, absolutely.
Yeah.
We went over this map probably, 14 different ways, trying to impact one less address. I mean, we know that it's awful. Most of us in this room have been through an address change at some point, and it is never fun. It's never good.
Go ahead.
So when I came tonight, when we got the
Could you
letter.
just state your name
Oh.
and address?
Teresa Carr, 240 Great Bay Road, the current. My husband and I, we got the letter, and I was anxious. I don't like change, and so that's why I came tonight. I've never come. But you've relieved me. I mean, you respect the fact that it's a historical town. You've given us a chance to keep one of the delightful names, Dearborn. And you've explained why it can't be Great Bay. That makes sense. And I want to be safe. If we have a 911 emergency, I want you to find me quick. So I'm still anxious because I've never had a change. So, but you did say you're going to do the utilities for us at the post office, and you'll give us a packet, and you'll let us have Christmas. In January 2019.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Yes.
I just I hope I can follow all the rules. Is it really difficult?
It's just, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. It's really about letting your credit card companies and independent companies that we don't, deal with directly, because we deal with the utilities and the post office all the time. But it's really about that. Even 911 even pushes it out to like Google Maps and different things. However, they are independent companies, so they choose when they pick up. But of course, these applications are as popular as much as they collect new data. So they do tend to do a pretty good job. We've had some that have lagged 3 months, and we've had some that within like a couple of days pick up. So, and we push that information out so you don't have to do anything with that as well. Yes, sir?
Keith Morrow. Used to be 81, now 35 Dearborn Road. And I've moved a lot. So it is a pain, but it's not that big a deal. And usually the post office has a period of time to give you a chance to catch people that don't have your change of address. They'll forward stuff for a period of time.
They've guaranteed a year, but in going through this, because we're a small community and we work with both the post office in Portsmouth and the local one, they said it will be years that they will be able to forward that stuff.
I think from what I've heard from other people who've already changed their roads, the hard thing is your Amazon shopping, your online shopping.
Right.
That's
right.
So that's why it's good they're waiting till after Christmas because you won't be getting anything.
Right. The online shopping, you have to imagine that the independent company has to have accepted the address, or else they say that it doesn't exist and they can't
Well, not
do it.
only that, but certain companies like Amazon, they validate their customer addresses, unfortunately sometimes against Google Maps, which as the chief said, we push out all of these changes to these mapping companies, and unfortunately it takes inundating them with multiple requests to make them move a little faster, but it's up to them whether they accept our information and make the changes, and usually it takes a short period of time. However, the Postal Service is really where most companies validate their addressing, and the chief worked very closely with them on making that happen.
Right, and so the post office is very, very fast with
And
that.
we notify all phone service providers, so if that is a concern.
I think my biggest concern is I hope this just isn't a smoke screen. I hope that 911 is really going to be finding people now more accurately because I think messaging and communication is a huge part of it. And again, things that I've heard from people who've had problems, it wasn't that they couldn't find them. They just got the wrong message. So I think.
And you're right, sometimes that happens. Anything we can add to make it more accurate is gonna help us. So you're right, there's always a human factor. There's mistakes for many other reasons, but if we can take away one of them, it would be fabulous. Yes, Mary?
Mary Dearborn, Dearborn Road. It doesn't matter what you change it to because there are going to be changes. So one way or another, there will be changes.
Mm-hmm.
So part of Great Bay Road, as I understand it, is that going to be Great Bay East and West becomes Dearborn Road?
No,
Or
Great Bay
we
East
start
and
at the
West
top of the hill right now?
Right now it's gonna start at 33 if these changes are done. And it'll end where it meets Great Bay East and West, and that will be named something else. Just one road, because it all connects.
At any rate,
Yeah.
it's going to be changed anyway, whether you change it, keep it one way. And if Dearborn Road was going to be changed to all Great Bay Road, it would
Right, it's
still
still
be
a
changed.
change, exactly.
And Great Bay Road still curves around right by Gowan.
Exactly.
And goes down to.
Exactly. So they both still exist, and they both really are kind of one of the original parts of the town that, yes, it was much more open and not as built up, but it really is, I think, kind of important to this town to remember where we've been and where we're going. So, but yes, it's up to you guys as far as what names you want. I mean, it's not our choice.
There are restrictions though.
Yeah.
You
She's
cannot
the small
create,
print.
yeah, I'm the small print. No, part of this effort was really to eliminate this duplicate sounding road names, the bays, the shores. And so moving forward, there is an RSA in place that prevents communities from creating duplicate or confusingly similar sounding road names. So it is a great opportunity to get creative and come up with ideas with your neighbors, but most likely a bay or a shore won't be making an appearance again, hopefully.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Pam Peterson. I'm from 72 Dearborn Road.
Okay.
On the other map, if you could go back to the other map, the one you had up before.
This one?
Yeah, I'm on the upper
Okay.
right-hand
Yep.
dotted line that goes, I'm 600 feet into the woods. And people don't find me.
Oh, I bet.
So it's come up with other people that they've made their driveway a separate name
Yes.
off of Dearborn Road. Is that possible to do?
That is, so our recommendation is that driveways accessing more than 2 addressable structures receive a name, become a private drive, for that exact reason. However, yours was not named as one of those that would be recommended for private road naming.
Because it only has one.
It has 2.
Oh,
Yeah, there are 2
Mary
map
Dearborn's
lots.
home
Oh,
is
okay,
is
right.
access along
Right.
with
We
yours.
share part of it.
Yeah.
You do,
Right.
so,
And then I have 2 map lots on my property.
you do?
Yep.
So if anything was constructed on those or developed in the future, that would certainly be something that 911 would recommend. And it's up to the Board of Selectmen if they'd like to institute that now with the thought that subdividing or construction on those lots may occur at some point, but that's not something that 911 would recommend right now.
And also in the packet, we have an 8 by 11 sheet about the best way to mark your driveway, like the right size numbers and things like that. I know other towns have those little reflective signs that you can buy with your numbers. We haven't quite gotten to that point yet, but if it's numbered on both sides and the right size, it does make it easier for us to find at the end of especially a long driveway, where you don't see the house.
Yeah, if they can't find 72, I don't see them finding 150.
Right.
And I know in the past we've heard that people's numbers are posted on their mailboxes, but their mailboxes are across the street from their driveway. I would recommend that everybody make sure that your number is posted at the end of your driveway, because when they're looking to respond to an emergency, they're not looking for your mailbox. They want to make sure they get to you. So if you don't have numbers posted at the end now, I'd recommend posting them.
Yes, sir.
My name is Frank Manter, and I live on 38 Dearborn Road. And I'd like to say that I appreciate the chief's desire to maintain history in town. Just for the record, let me say that I'm living in the home that was built by Charles Romano Dearborn. He was my great-grandfather, so I'm direct blood. And I do have a preference to kind of maintain some of that heritage, at least part of it. So.
Yeah. And we had a section that we talked about on Portsmouth Ave, and it was the same things, People came in and said, listen, I live in the first tavern that exists, you know what I mean? And that stuff really does mean something, because, your kids and the kids' kids, yes, we bring in all these people from the outside, but we also have families that stay for a long time. Yes, sir.
Chief, R.B. Lawrence from 124 Great Bay Road. So, I'm looking at this, and it seems like even with this change, there's still kind of Dearborn Road might have old numbers, new numbers, and with apologies in advance to my neighbors who have a much closer connection to the name than I do. Has there been thought to starting from scratch? I dare say, and believe me, I love my road. I love everything about it. But if we're doing this for utilitarian reasons, it seems like there might be an argument from starting over.
Starting over, the only difference between starting over and what we have up here is that instead of 50-foot increments, we did 72. 73, I'm sorry. So,
what I'm saying is starting over with the road names.
but what I'm saying is, if you guys decided this was Road A, the only difference in these things the numbers would be that they would be reduced to 50-foot increments. So absolutely, if you have a name preference, then that's up to you guys.
No, I don't necessarily. I just think, so realizing there's already pain in this process.
Yeah.
Again, we're not doing this to feel good about ourselves, and I don't want to diminish that and the importance of that, because like I said, obviously I raised kids in the house and I have a connection to the name. that being said, it seems like that if we were looking to eliminate all future confusion, that we would rename the entire roadway in the bay and get rid of both Great Bay roads, get rid of the Dearborn roads and start from scratch. That's my suggestion, or my question, I guess I should say. Again, as a devil's advocate,
I guess I would let you handle that as far as if another name, if I understand it right, another name you feel like would reduce confusion.
Well, if we're having to renumber Dearborn Road, right?
Yes.
So there'll be a historical, remembrance or knowledge of where the old numbers were and where the new numbers are. So where the concern you had earlier about having the old 5 Great Bay Road and the new 5 Great Bay Road and that confusion, we're gonna have a little bit of that remaining. And so my point is that if, again, we're doing this for utilitarian reasons, which I think we are, we're not doing this because we want to do it. We're doing it because we're trying to be as effective as possible with emergency services. It seems like it makes sense to start with renaming all the roads so that there's no historical references that can create confusion. That doesn't make me feel good. Like I said, however, that's, again, if we go back to the stated purpose of the exercise.
That is certainly something that 911 would support, because I think that it would potentially alleviate some of the concerns that have been presented as far as recycled numbering and confusion as far as which direction the new roads are going. But that's ultimately up to the community. We're happy to provide our recommendations for whatever scenario you feel would be safest. However, ultimately the decision is yours.
Yes, sir.
My name is Russell Carr. I'm at 240 Great Bay Road as well. Now, I don't know this young woman's name from 911.
Yes, Jeannie.
Jeannie said that there will be new numbering, but I also remember from the letter that I received that they want to have uniform, that some numbers are on the right side, some numbers on the left side. But that kind of depends on which way you say is the beginning.
So the beginning would be where the numbers are radiating out of. And generally our recommendation is that address numbers should radiate with the line direction going outward of the center of town.
Okay.
That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, that's one of the standardization things.
Yeah.
So if we had roads that were not doing that, that's one of them.
And there are certainly roads that have been named as non-standard specifically for that reason. The numbering starts at a dead end. That's not something that we recommend as well for ease in locating address.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
This may be nobody cares about but me, but I do my taxes on the computer, and I get my W-2 form, and it will have an address, but then in January I'll have a new address. Has anybody dealt with this before? Is that going to create problems with paying taxes?
It does not. I mean, anybody that's moved, no, it doesn't do anything to your taxes.
Especially no matter where you live.
Yeah.
They're the ones that can find you.
They got a different Google map.
Thanks, Harvey.
If you find a way around that, let me know. The other question that people have asked is, what about, do I have to get the deed changed? And you do not have to have the deed changed. In the town office, if your lot and number will contain an old address and a new address. So it just gets changed when you sell or transfer the property, and it happens at the same time. So it is on record here. There's nothing that costs you money or that you have to do with that.
To add that, on occasion, you may get a letter from maybe your property insurance, but the town will send you a letter indicating that your address has been changed, and that's sufficient for the insurance companies. If they ever question it, you can just give them a copy of the letter.
Okay.
And that comes in the packet.
How about DMV?
That also comes in the packet. It's something just to be able to send in, or you can go in person and change that. Now, we don't recommend you do any of the changes until the effective date. And so the effective date would be January 3rd, so it doesn't fall on a holiday.
Please do not use your new addresses until the effective date, if that is ultimately what happens, because when you call 911, we don't update our systems with the new road names or the new addresses, including the phone service providers. They won't change their records until the date of the effective date. So if you do have an emergency, you call 911, make sure that you're using your current address up until that first effective date. Even your utilities may give you some pushback if you try and set the changes up ahead of time. The effective date is important.
Okay, anyone have any other further questions for our folks here?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I'm Nancy Hagner and I live on Great Bay Drive West.
Okay.
And I knew that this meeting was going to happen, so I wanted to kind of get a feel for what was going to be said.
Oh,
because
sure.
I know it will affect us in the long run.
Right.
My neighbors and I have been talking, knowing that the changes are going to be made, and we, in regard to what Marilyn has said as well, since we actually are on Great Bay, would we have any say in maybe retaining the name because of being on?
Yeah, that's the next phase, I believe it is.
I know, but I knew
And-
that this would probably be, have
Yep.
some bearing on this to have our.
It doesn't have the bearing on the names, but I'll tell you in advance for the next phase, it will be, the extension, your Great Bay Drive east and west as one, and then the actual from the curve, the Great Bay Drive. So those will be Road A and Road B, and it will be up to you and your fellow citizens and the Board of Selectmen to decide which one will be which.
Because am I right in hearing that the sprig that comes off of Dearborn that is now Great Bay?
Yes.
That was going to retain the name Great Bay, or?
That was gonna retain the name or some name. The numbering is gonna change, so, as long as we, even if
So it's
we
not
don't.
written in?
No, not written in stone.
Okay.
It's definitely up to you guys at your meeting and discussion with the Board of Selectmen.
But will these two roads be named first before us, or we all
Yes.
be together?
Yes, no, this, what we just talked about tonight, Dearborn all the way down, in 2 weeks at the next Board of Selectmen meeting, that's when they'll meet and vote on that one. And then the next phase will be the following, July 23rd. The next Board of Selectmen meeting, I believe, will be the first discussion about those two roads.
But
So
if
those-
that's already decided, then we wouldn't even have a say.
No,
whether-
tonight is only Dearborn.
Right, oh, so you're not even
We're
going to
not.
discuss the Great Bay.
Right,
but yes.
right, where it turns off, that's gonna be on your night.
Okay.
I think the chances of it being Great Bay are probably nil.
I know.
But certainly, it would be best to get together with your neighbors and come up with what you think is a good idea.
Right, yeah.
So Tara,
Yes.
how many roads in Greenland will have the name Bay?
Yeah.
Just Great Bay.
There will only be a Great Bay, and I
We have
believe you wanted to
Bayside.
keep Bay Shore.
No, Bayside.
Bayside.
Too many
Shore
bays, too many bays. Yeah.
Yeah, Bay Shore's already been changed to Shore. But I believe that was ultimately what you folks had wanted.
We can either go down to absolutely only one bay, or because Bayside, the bay is first, and then Great Bay, the bay is second, that 911 would support that. But, anything beyond that, any other bays would be redundant. So the Bay View and the Bay Shore and the Bay Ridge and all the other bays are gone, yeah. Is she raising? Oh, I thought you were stretching, I'm sorry.
I'm Deborah Beck, I'm Greenland, New Hampshire. I think Great Bay Road and Bayside are technically owned by the state majority, correct?
Naming is up to the community.
Okay. Just a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Great Bay from 33 down a ways is state road.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and Bayside has a section right at the beginning and right near the end, so it definitely is kind of weird. And we have talked with the state about that intersection of Great Bay Drive and and Dearborn. We've talked about it and, you know, asked them, you know, their suggestions about what makes sense and stuff. I asked if we could put in a three-way stop, if we could look at it a different way, and quite frankly, they weren't interested in changing anything, so.
Okay. Any other questions for tonight? Would it be helpful, because we heard sort of both sides, is some people saying we should start over with a brand new name for Dearborn, other people say we should keep Dearborn. Can you give us sort of a straw poll as to what the people here tonight think would be the right answer? How many would like to start over?
If you changed it from Dearborn to, or changed all of them, you'd have to change Great Bay, Dearborn, and Great Bay East and West, correct? That's a lot more changes than what you're recommending right now.
Well, that's right, and I'm just trying to get sort of a straw poll to see if there's a real feeling among you as the folks who live there, whether you would like to keep it as Dearborn or whether you think it should be starting over. And just as, not binding on anyone, but just sort of as a straw poll to give us some guidance. How many of you would like to keep Dearborn? Okay, and how many would like to start over?
I thought it was a great idea.
Okay.
Because if you're gonna,
And that's not binding, that's just a straw poll to give us some guidance. Okay. And the next public hearing on this is June 25th, at which point we will be making a decision. So if you have any other questions or thoughts or other neighbors, please get in touch with either Charlotte or the chief so they can have all that information for the public hearing on the 25th.
And after that meeting, will you be mailing us the results of that meeting?
Mhm.
Yes.
They make the decision right here. If you have a question between now and the next meeting, you can email me, you can email Karen, email Charlotte, or call us, anything. If you have questions or recommendations or anything, because we do like discuss before they take a vote in the next meeting. Yes, Debbie?
I just have one more question, probably to you. Do other communities, has there been a lot of communities that have done this?
There have been a number of communities,
And
yeah.
which ones? I know
Lee.
Epping has had a couple of roads that they've changed.
Exeter's doing
Exeter is in the process right now. They just recently, we did like three or four roads just about a month or two ago. Exeter is doing 30-something roads, 32 roads, I believe it is.
So you think this is going to be a big thing, or is it just a few communities that are going to step into it?
We've been doing this for.
I've been doing it for 8 years.
But the 911
Yeah.
mapping program
Yeah.
has been in place for nearly 20.
Yeah.
And we have gone into every community that would have us and evaluated the current state of their addressing and road names and created a non-standard list. And many communities will either go full bore and touch on almost every item on the list, but others will only take on the most egregious issues, which really, of all of the changes in Greenland, I am so happy that you all are making changes to the bays and the shore roads, because that is such an egregious problem. There are so many roads with the same name, it's really a nightmare. But as far as what Greenland has done, it's been a long process. It's been 4 years now almost that these changes have been underway. And I will say that even though Greenland has made many more changes than communities that I've worked in, only because I've been a field rep for only 4 years. Previous, I was in the call center. Greenland has done it the best. And even though the changes are sometimes very painful and they're not convenient for anybody, Greenland does it right. They set their residents up for success as far as providing that packet and providing support through these changes, and the communication is excellent. So even though this has been a big thing, your community is really doing the responsible thing in the right way.
So there's not another community that has entered into this like Greenland has that you know of, correct? I mean, this is the only community that has dealt with this to this point?
No.
Is that
No. Kenningland has been at this a lot longer than I have.
Oh, I'm just curious.
No, many. For
There are
example, like
many.
the Exeter. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, they're in the process of doing 32 roads, and they've completely completed some just recently as well.
Just because of the similarity in the name?
Duplicate road names.
And I believe this isn't just endemic to New Hampshire. I think this is something that's going on throughout the whole country.
Exactly. Our addressing standards are based on national standards that have been developed through actual call scenarios and results of calls. And they've been tailored to fit more of what New Hampshire needs as far as addressing standards. I mean, some of them really go down to splitting hairs, and we found that wasn't the best fit for New Hampshire. But they are based on national standards and best practices. And I can tell you that I have been on calls where the ambulances have driven by homes because they're not posted, there are no lights outside, the addressing is confusing, and there's nothing more painful than having to hear that over the phone and know that there's nothing that I can do about it. But now I am able to help communities do something about it. And I mean, these practices save lives.
So are we the smallest, I'm sorry, Debbie.
No, that's right.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, almost said thank you.
Are we the smallest community? Because my understanding is that if you have a community around 3,000 or so, you don't have to participate.
You don't have to participate no matter what your size is.
Oh, no matter what the size is? Oh, I thought it was the size.
And I think Lee is smaller than us, are they?
Square miles.
No, I think
Okay.
population wise.
Okay.
I mean, mapping wise, Newcastle is 9/10 of a mile long, and they work with us.
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you back on the 25th.
Have you guys found any copies of these maps? Do you want me to leave any copies? Here you go. I'll even leave one of these. Larger font size. Larger font size.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's probably no cheap, similar
And this is probably one of my last ones with you. Penny Lynn is going to be Greenland's field representative.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my territory got rearranged, so I'm no longer anywhere in Rock County.
Oh, my Lord, we're gonna miss you, you did such a great job.
Thank you. Good job yourself, Vaughn.
Good luck in the new
Thank you. If you ever find yourself in Merrimack County, you can find me.
I will, I'll look for you.
Thank you very much.
There you go. All right, so this week's gonna be.
Bye, Charlie.
Bye.
Oh,
don't you worry, I give him plenty.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Alrighty.
You might be able to see what
Next item of business for
Okay,
us.
ladies and
I got it last year, so I.
The next item of business for us is the minutes of May 29th.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion on the minutes of May 29th?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, May 29th, 2018 as written.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next item, recreation buildings with our building inspector, Jim. You can start telling us about the buildings on our recreation fields and what we ought to be doing.
I don't want to really tell you what you ought to be doing, but I can provide you with some recommendations. The first one I looked at was the two in Crasco Field. It's my understanding that building one, which is the building where the cinder block building is currently, you're looking at replacing the building.
Yes.
And my recommendation is to at least get an estimate on fixing the building. You've had a tremendous expense recently in updating the electrical aspects of the building. The only one corner of the building has been jeopardized. The remaining corners of the building seem to be pretty good condition. The building is on a concrete poured floor in it. I think if changes were made to the grading, the vegetation was pushed back, you could potentially save that building.
Okay, Paul, your thoughts?
The reason why that gone, Karen helped me out, 6-7 years ago, we had a spring open up and totally undermined that. That's what caused that to collapse. If you look directly behind the backstop there, we had to put a drain and run a pipe all the way out down the whole right field side. That thing drains constantly. So that's what caused the damage. Two guys that had come out and look at it, basically it costs more to try to fix that than to redo it. because of the spring that happened.
Okay.
Okay.
So if a new building is built, it will be in a different location.
No, it's gonna be there, but it's gonna be a small building.
Spring,
Pardon me?
I guess, isn't the spring gonna?
It's not gonna be on a concrete pad. It'll probably be on blocks off the ground in a small wooden building. It's basically there just to hold the panel.
Electric panel.
Yeah.
But there's some major electrical aspects to that building that supplies not only the building, but the field and the other building as well.
Yeah.
Okay. You, question, Chester?
I was in Town Hall Complex and I did look at some of the buildings with the inspector. And I think it definitely, I'd like to see some numbers on an estimate to repair it. And I'd like to see an estimate on moving the electrical. It is big, but it happens all the time. So the building, I think we really need to think about what we're gonna do about this building. How much do we need those two buildings there? I mean,
Are you thinking about just running a whole new electric line into the other building and move the panel out there?
well, I don't know. I mean, I think the best bet is to repair that building. I think it's possible. Because we don't have that much money. I mean, we got 15,000. So I would get some hard numbers. I would get 3 estimates to repair the block on that building. Then we don't have to move the electrical, we don't have to do anything else. Do some outside grading, whatever. I mean, if a spring comes up, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Right.
It happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Is that building still used as a snack shack type thing?
No.
I do have a comment on, I don't know if it was that building or the other building, but the electrical panels were all, they weren't covered up, and I'm concerned that we have,
That was in building 2.
yeah, it's in the
building that I
picture.
recommended to be raised.
What do you mean not covered up?
Well, it's duct tape over the panel, it's in this picture here. I just want, kids are in there getting equipment and balls and volunteer coaches and stuff like that. It's just, that's a major hazard. So,
Is that a common box? Is that?
no matter whose
That's
responsibility.
a box for that, just the structure.
Yeah, is it a common?
Just a sub-
Manufacturer, or is it a non-bulk?
I didn't really look into it too much.
Maybe before we move on to building 1, let's see if we can just get a decision of what to figure out on building 1, which is, okay, Jim, what sort of estimates are you suggesting that we get? A stone mason?
Yeah, get the estimate from a mason on repairing the corner of the structure.
Okay, and then, Paul, do we also have some landscaping issues there? Because that water is gonna bleed out of the hill again, right? So,
Well, it's never stopped.
okay, but it's under control now in the sense that it's piped?
It's under control on the field side.
Okay,
So it doesn't ruin the field anymore. We could open up a can of worms if we dug in front of that building, we could wash out
Yeah,
that.
it's a shame the electrical went in that building because it was falling apart. That's the way it happens.
Right.
It don't fall by anybody, just Mother Nature.
The grading though comes right down off the hill and right to the building.
Right.
And what needs to happen is there needs to be a drainage swale created around the backside of the building, to channel the water
Right.
coming down the hill away from the building.
in other words, a dam, okay.
A swale.
A French drain or French?
No, just a
Swale,
swale
the berm.
to get the drainage
He's talking about the hill
around the
from the
building.
transfer station coming down is almost touches the building.
Okay, so you've got to divert the water with the swale?
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, what do you think, we can get those estimates?
I can make some phone calls and set that up for estimates.
Okay, fine, so we'll make no decision other than to get those estimates.
All right.
And the estimates that we think we need are the stone mason, the installation of a swale, and electrical movement. In other words, if you were going to replace the building, what would it take to move the electrical?
Okay.
That's what I meant.
That was my
Okay, so, all right.
So we have information on all the options that we need.
All right.
To go forward one way or another.
Okay, now building number 2, your recommendation is send it back up the hill to the dump, right?
I think it's time to move on with that structure, yeah.
Okay.
It seemed to be underutilized, big open area inside, is in really poor condition. I think it's time to move on.
What do you mean underutilized?
There wasn't much of anything inside. There was,
Because everything's in season right now in the winter, that thing's packed.
Could that stuff be gone into a shipping container type of dry storage?
That's up to you guys, yeah.
I mean, I'm asking you, in your opinion, I don't know all the equipment that you're talking about, is that, doesn't need heat, doesn't need climate control?
No.
Okay,
No.
so heat, okay.
The electric for the pump system for irrigation.
Yeah, the irrigation is run out of that building.
Okay. Again, I mean,
Yep.
that can be moved.
So therefore, part of the estimate on number one is relocating stuff, if this one's knocked down, to bring it back into that structure, so all the electrical's in one place.
No, we have, the irrigation is run out of the second
Oh, I
building.
understand, but if that building no longer existed, it would have to go to building one.
Yeah, it'd have to go someplace, yes.
So that should be part of our estimate, right?
All right. That's only if we, yeah, all right.
Okay, now the other part of that means if that structure is gone and they still need storage, we have to have some alternative.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and that might mean, what, storage bins over at Gowans, or, because I assume our new Bluebird place is gonna be way too expensive.
Or like he said,
Yeah, I would.
we could buy a shipping container and put it at one of the two fields.
Or do we relook at this and we need one new building out there too? Be gone with both of them and start over, done for
Okay.
To me,
my grandkids' generation.
Yeah.
Long
To me, the safest bet is not to have the cinder block building and build a nice building where the other one stands.
That's one, it's just.
Because then you don't have to worry about the drain, water coming off the hill.
And if this doesn't happen, I mean, it doesn't have to happen this year. I mean,
Right.
they're falling down, but they're not gonna fall down.
And just build a big enough building, get an estimate to move the electrical. And talk to the rec department, see how much room they actually need for storage.
Okay. Yeah,
Go from there.
What's needed, yeah. If we're gonna do it, I'd rather have all.
One nice building and put it in the safest spot.
Rather than build a phone booth to house the electrical, because we don't wanna move that. 'Cause
Right.
that building falling down is, everything we're talking about is really a Band-Aid. I mean, to save money, yeah, we can fix that
I
building.
agree with him, one nice building and consolidate everything.
You know, and.
And to me, the safest place for that building is where building number 2 is.
You could do, some storm shelter, part of it, you know, like pavilion style type of thing, for people to get out of lightning.
Yep.
Just, there's a
Well,
lot of
the
different,
You got the aluminum bleachers.
there's a lot of multi-purpose things we can do with one building out there.
Yep.
Okay, so therefore, the best thing to do is to let you off, maybe until the next meeting to get some estimates, so that we can start developing a plan. I'm sure that the plan will cost more than the 15,000 we have available, unless.
I bet it'd be close to 15 grand just to move all that electrical into a new building.
Easily. It's all three-phase.
It is, it's all, because it controls all the lights.
Okay, but again, we can't know until we get estimates.
Yeah.
Shovel and pipe.
So option 1, option 2, and option 3.
Yep.
There you go.
Just make sure we got a good foundation under the new building if we're gonna build something, because that's part of the problem with the one that's there.
I believe that's just a prefab building that's on blocks.
That's exactly it. And I'm talking, you get the precast cement, go down 4 feet and set them on that, just like you would a porch.
All right.
I believe that one was also
And the wood chuck
donation.
tunnels underneath it, you don't lose a section.
Which means it's probably only like 2x3 construction, 24 inches on sound.
Okay, so Crasco, we really can't fix, we can't solve right now. Okay, moving on over to, Castle next.
Next page is Maloney.
Okay, then Maloney.
50-50 chance.
Yeah.
And you did note that Maloney Field has a steel cable that poses a safety
From my
hazard.
perspective, that's a safety issue for the users of the ball field. There's a cable that runs from the fence to a tree. There's 2, signs on the cable, but the majority of the cable is just open. It's right at neck height for a child through there.
Okay, the reason for that is cars were coming off the power lines and tearing up the field.
Right. Okay, now, what if you were to take that cable and clad it in some yellow or orange?
Well, you can put up more, what I have is reflective triangle signs, I can add more of those.
What do you think, Jim?
I wouldn't have a cable there, I'd have something that could easily break away. Cars shouldn't be there. We gotta come up with another way of keeping traffic. The whole use of that is for people playing baseball. There shouldn't be any vehicles
What
there.
about placement of a couple of area blocks so that you can get your mower through, but not the,
I don't need to get my mower through.
They'll put some hernia blocks in. If they go through that, we're gonna know who did it.
You talking Jersey barriers?
No, hernia blocks are cheaper. It's a square block of waste cement that they make at the pike. They don't stack them, they usually sit one at a time.
You guys have any big rocks left from the cleanup out there?
I can bring you some big rocks.
Got some big rocks there, huh? I could do that.
I'm no longer affiliated.
All right.
Sorry.
I was just asking if there was anything
No
big.
idea what goes on there. I think Pike sells those boxes for $25 to $45 a piece, depending on what it is.
I mean, that's the reason of the cable, we had
If it helps
vehicles
you get rid of some
going
rocks,
through there.
we have a good place to put them.
Oh, no, actually, people want, but I have and I can load them on your trailer with a Bobcat, and you can bring them over.
That's fine.
Anytime, and they'll look better than the cement blocks.
Yeah, they will look better.
Yeah.
I agree with you
They've
there.
got some nice big rocks.
Okay, then that's a solution, fantastic.
All right, but I would like to move on that because Jim brought up that it's a safety issue and that comes before us. We just can't drag our feet on it.
Yeah, he's right, anyone going through there could get guilty.
Yeah.
Right. Question, there's a second building in Maloney, the pump house. Did you have a chance to look at that?
The second building at Maloney Field,
Yeah, as you go in,
The little shed up on top of
shed
the
to the
hill.
left as
I
you
did not look at the
drive
shed up
in.
on top of the hill, no.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, and that's fairly new.
Yeah, but.
That's only like 3 years old with the irrigation.
Scrape and prime and paint type of thing.
Did you put the pin in that one with that bigger pump?
Okay.
Was it worth doing that, say before?
What's that?
The gold catch pan, the drain pan, that's condensate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's got a catch pan under it.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
Yep. I think it cost me $12.
All right, Caswell?
Well, actually, okay, it says building one for storage 10 by 10, not accessible, then there was, the other one, there was some T111, is that?
Same building.
Are we down on to Caswell yet?
That is the same building.
Same building, those are my requested repairs of the structure.
Okay, so it's a repair situation. then.
Right.
Okay.
The little side of that one's all brand new inside, and the roofs are brand new.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to Caswell. So you have the building at the backstop and you have 2 dugouts. Dugouts, I take it, are pretty easy, they're just repairs?
Yep, small repairs, yep.
Okay. Now, was there a fencing issue there about having an access gate wide enough to get some equipment in there to do some fixing?
No, there's a double gate there, always has been.
On Caswell?
Yeah.
No, I remember something about the infield machine couldn't get through the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been said multiple times in these meetings.
What, my infield machine?
Yeah.
The town's infield machine couldn't get through the gate, so the infield at Caswell couldn't be done. And I know that you hadn't been.
No, I can get, no, it's got a double gate there.
Okay.
Okay, so no fencing problem.
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, needs some fencing work done in areas.
Okay, just maintenance type, to bring the fence back up to good condition, right?
No, the equipment's too big to do the infield, not to get to the infield.
Okay.
I can't do the baselines, they're too narrow, the machine's
Right.
wider than the
Right.
baselines.
Yep.
On the baseline, Paul, they're sinking, right? That's the problem, they're basically getting backed down and they're sinking, right?
No, they just had,
I'm just trying to go from memory here.
It's the lip.
no, there's a lip on the oval going to the outfield, they're different heights.
And that's just a normal thing that happens from
People running.
dragging the field.
Yeah.
And so that field needs to be dealt with from a maintenance perspective that way.
I believe,
Right, rec department's
Steve Sargent
To that, yeah.
talked about that when he was here the last time.
That's gonna, we're gonna be subbed out to be taken care of.
Okay, so the primary structural issue is gonna be the building and the backstop.
Right.
And what did you find in there, Jim?
From my perspective, what I could see was just replacement of the T111 siding that's pulled away from the structure.
I got an estimate a couple weeks ago on that for $600.
You may want to add some gutters where needed to prevent the rain from.
$600.
To replace the T111.
Yep. And I forget exactly which way the roof pitches on that. There was one time.
It goes,
At one point, it used to go to the field, now I think
it goes from the backstop towards the parking lot. It's just a slope.
just a shed.
Right.
Okay.
That was changed, I think, when they put the second floor on there. It does go to the back of the building, not towards the ball field.
Okay, and that's the area where you need the gutter for water control.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a pretty minor thing. And rotten trim, did you see any water damage inside? Because I think.
I wasn't able to get inside.
Okay.
That's all brand new, the roofs, shingles, all new floors.
Okay, so it should be straightened out that way. So again, this is just some fairly minor, except for the T111, some fairly minor maintenance.
Yep.
Okay, so that's just a question of getting an estimate so we can get it done. Because that should be within our existing maintenance budget. Okay, so Maloney is not going to require a significant amount of money. Caswell's going to require just someone to do the T111 side, because you don't want to do that. You want to sub that out to somebody.
The guy that offered to do it for $600, I would do the demo and get rid of it, and he would come in and put up all the boards.
Fair enough.
Okay. And that includes a new trim board.
So, I see like a lot of scraping and painting and stuff like that. I have an option, maybe we could talk about is, I believe it's back in action, you can buy a van full of convicts lunch, and they'll deliver a van full of convicts to the town.
Yep.
You buy lunch and they'll be escorted all day.
How do you think this room got done?
Well, yeah, I know. So could we get the building inspector, maintenance, could we get a plan to get this to the point where we can get the T111 done, any trim that needs to be replaced, and then set up with Karen?
Rockingham County.
Rockingham
You can
County
get it
Corrections.
I've never done it, I think you have.
I have.
Right, it's been done.
Yeah.
And, I
They
think
painted the entire building, actually.
right, so you need to have, I don't know the whole ins and outs of that program.
Just don't bring soda, you get in trouble.
Right. Soda was okay, no, it was juice.
Oh, I got in trouble for buying some soda.
Oh, we could have soda, but no apple juice, no orange juice.
But I think it's a
Because
low.
then they keep it and they take it back and it becomes wine.
We were told because they weren't allowed to have that kind of sugar.
Oh, yeah, no, they
I
didn't
think it
have.
solves a few problems as far as we don't have enough manpower, we don't have enough time, we don't have enough money.
Fine, so let's authorize Karen to figure out whether that can happen and how.
I'd like to add, I ran it by a few of the parents in the rec committee, because, you know, how would you feel with convicts, you know, criminals, whatever, on the fields, and as long as it's not during the game time. I said, well, you know,
They're probably certain.
so nobody had a problem with it just from that angle.
I'm pretty sure they come in a Monday through Friday business hour.
Right, it's like 8 to 3.
Yeah, so I don't think there'll be a conflict.
Right, so I'm just, no,
Yeah.
I just wanted some opinion.
Okay.
From
Yeah, I think it's great.
the soccer moms.
Sure.
Literally,
Okay,
maybe that's a solution.
Jim, anything else we should know about these structures?
Nope.
Okay, very good.
Good job, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I want to let you know, I saw my first pickleball game today.
They sit down there, I've seen it a few times now. They love it.
Yeah, I go, okay, that's what that is.
I think I saw it on TV, it's a pickleball, like, we were talking about it. On the phone or something, I don't know what it was.
Okay, good, moving right along.
All right.
Hopefully update. So I'll let Karen speak first here.
Okay, I attended the meeting in Portsmouth on Wednesday morning at Public Works, which was not necessarily related to Coakley itself, but it was the Breakfast Hill Water Main project. which we're trying to get forward to prevent any problems from the Coakley. The whole work plan for the design phase was reviewed, and the initial kickoff of the work will begin on Monday, June 25th, and that's the subsurface field work. They'll be doing some borings, doing all kinds of testing for hydrology, and then survey work itself will begin on July 2nd. There'll be a meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the public in September, and completion of the whole design ready for construction by December. The costs are covered by the $200,000 grant. I believe it came in at like $185,000. That's been approved. The funding is sitting there as the engineers and their subcontractors on this work finish different steps of the project. An invoice will be prepared that will go to the state for approval, and they will pay direct. The meeting itself was very good. It was very knowledgeable to learn the whole scope of this project on the design and engineering phase of it. Portsmouth was very clear to say that when this is ready to go, Portsmouth would not be contributing any money whatsoever towards it. That this would be something that is at Greenland's expense, or what Greenland can get loans or grants for. Two of the representatives from the Clean Water MBT Fund were there and explained the funding cycles and the funding scenarios that they're considering. And the deadline to get any funds for 2019 is like now, or June 19th for funding in December. The next deadline is June of 2019 for funding in 2020. And that's the time frame they were looking at, is all of 2019 being engineering and 2020 being construction. Which was kind of discouraging, because to me this is to help prevent the problems that are foreseeable from the Coakley, and I was hoping that we could do something to prevent anything further from drawing away from the site. But the time frame just doesn't seem all that great. I have the minutes from the entire meeting. And some of the notes that we made certain to have is that hydrants are something that will be important that we account for and add in during this process. Currently, there's just dry hydrants in Falls Way. So we want to be able to have the hydrants to have enough flow as well. The design for demand is 48,800 approximate gallons per day, with pressures that the minimum is 35. A lot of these pressures were lower than that. They were coming in at 30, 28. So the Department of Environmental Services was concerned with the pressures. So they want to have them look at different ways that they can improve the pressure for the new line, because it does not meet state standards right now. And this does not include irrigation demands. Brian Getz is going to provide the water budget for the last 3 years for the system, so that they can see if they have the demand to be, the capacity to meet the demand. There was no additional permits for the field investigation that they're needed. And they're looking to have me just do some notification of the residents through Facebook and things that there will be some field investigations going on. That if they see people on the end of the street doing borings and stuff, that's what it's all about. It is assumed that CV Way, which is currently now connected through the Rye Water District, would then come off that line and be transferred to the Portsmouth line at that point.
And this is the one that would loop it back down Lafayette Road to Portsmouth existing line.
Correct. And Underwood is designing the water services to the right-of-way for all the properties. The installation from the road to the building is going to be the responsibility of the property owner. Let's see.
Is it mandatory they gotta tie to it?
That is going to be a decision of the Board of Selectmen. They're recommending that it become mandatory because the reason we're really pushing for this and looking for grant funds from everywhere we can and SRF funds is because the private wells are known to be pulling the water away. So the state, federal government, the town is going to invest money into this line. The private wells should come offline because you're going to negate the benefit of having public water if the house behind them is still drawing it right by them. And they will, the state will support having all wells come offline, which is what they required in the other areas that they've done water line extensions because of potential contaminations. And Portsmouth has passed a new ordinance that they would be requiring those with irrigation, they would have 2 wells. They would have the potable water well, 2 meters, one for the drinking water and a separate meter if they have an irrigation system, because that is charged at a different rate and it's a higher rate. This is the information about the water pressure, is that DES had noted that the standard for the water pressure is 35 PSIs and 20 PSIs at the property sill under all conditions. And the preliminaries are showing that it's in the 30s and some of them in the 28s. So Underwood is going to confirm the pressures to be reevaluated in the water modeling and address the low pressures in their engineering problem.
No discussion of sewer line?
No discussion of sewer line at this point.
Lafayette Road doesn't have sewer lines, does it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the state and the DES representatives that were there that have gone through this process in other areas that have had the contamination issue or the potential of contamination is that there will be some pushback from residents that currently have wells that are testing clean, that may or may not be in the line of a fracture, may not have a potential, but if the water line goes in and they're required, the public water that Portsmouth supplies right now has a level of 7 PFCs. So to get someone to understand that their well that's currently testing at a non-detect and a 0, they have to pay money to connect into the public water and pay for a bill after that. So they said to anticipate that once the board makes the decision, makes it firm, because there will be the percentage that are very happy about it and willing to get onto public water as quickly as they can, and another percentage that will fight it. Which I was surprised, but they said that it was a 50-50 mix in some of the areas that they've just done. And that was areas that had a PFC contamination that was airborne. So it got into some wells, not into others, but they ran the line and it was mandatory for that every house connected.
Yeah, that's the Litchfield experience.
He said it wasn't easy.
Okay.
So it's encouraging and discouraging. I think the time frame was discouraging.
And the money will be very discouraging.
Okay. I'll tell you what I find discouraging is the attitude of the city of Portsmouth and the entity that caused all this problem. And it seems like they're not being very forthcoming. Mr. Sullivan, I can't understand why he's still on the board and doing what he's been doing.
Yeah. After the meeting on Wednesday, I also attended a meeting on Thursday night that the city of Portsmouth put on for residents, and they had the entire Coakley Landfill Group Executive Committee present, as well as their engineers, their attorney, DES, EPA. And they gave presentations on all the various aspects of it and the history from the beginning, again. And then they had solicited questions, and so then they answered questions. And it, from the statistics.
Selectively.
I'm trying to be careful on how I word this,
I
but
think that's perfectly
the
okay, but they
questions
answer the
were,
question selectively.
I know that I had submitted 3 questions, they were not asked. And they were on the realm of the preventive measures and how the water line would help prevent the draw, and is it a potential that these wells and irrigation wells are pulling the contaminants? None of that was discussed. I know Mr. Sanderson submitted a question, it was not answered. Questions that were answered, one particular one was, are there any contaminants showing up that are naturally occurring? And of course, the answer is yes.
That's arsenic.
I was gonna say,
Right.
arsenic's the big one in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. Another question was, would the pump and treat system do more harm than good at this point if it were put in and disturbing the site as it currently stands?
That was not answered definitively.
No, it was not answered definitively.
By the way, Chester and myself were there as well.
Yeah. It just felt like the questions that were asked were the ones that had the good answers. And the questions that may not have the best answer or puts the Coakley Group in the best light were not asked.
I'm surprised.
I agree.
That was my take when I, as I sat there.
At the very end of the meeting, the one sort of hopeful note was that the Mayor Blaylock, announced that he would be forming a committee and asking representatives of all the affected towns to serve on a committee.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, let's just say.
He could turn around and just say, no way.
That's right. It was hopeful because at least they wanted to have some degree of listening. And we were speaking with Senator Clark afterward, and she indicated that that was her request and her idea. And so certainly that was a good thing. One thing that was distressing was that Senator Innes, who represents us, was not present. Okay. And that's an important thing to remember going forward in this election year. Yes.
So that's my Coakley update.
And
One thing on the Coakley update, I received an email from a Stone Meadow resident asking about an update on the water line, which just took care of it. Great. Can we add that to like a number 2A to Coakley update every week? An update on the water, on the water line, or include it?
I'll include it as part of
every week,
any,
just
well,
like-
if I have anything to say.
If there is, right, or even if there isn't, nothing to report on the water line at this time, something, so it's just touched on in the minutes. Thank you.
I guess the only other scientific thing that we learned is that the bedrock study is in fact proceeding. And they will be drilling 3 wells later this month. And we learned way more than we ever wanted to know about what the contents of those wells would be.
Yeah, that engineer actually got shut off.
Yeah.
They were showing pictures of the tools, and we're like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? It was 9:15 at night.
We just wanted testing results.
Yeah.
But the point is, at least that study proceeds. So that's about all we know at this point. So, moving on from Coakley, now the library bonds.
Okay, the library, I had solicited several banks to get proposals for the library bond. My notes say 3 banks have submitted. It's actually only 2 because the Provident, who said they would have their proposal in today, just did not. So at this point, I just have 2. And then I have the results of the bond bank sale, their most recent one. The next issue will be on January 9th with applications on November 9th. And their 20-year rate came in at 3.24% for the current one for the bond bank. Northway Bank would only go up to a 15-year rate, and their proposal is 3.65%. And Optima Bank, which is, who currently has our bond for the Dearborn Road project in Caswell Drive, will do the 20-year, and they gave us 3 options. Option 3 is actually probably the best option. It's a 10-year adjustable, and the rate would equate to initial bond rate of 3%. Option 2 would be a 5-year adjustable, and the first period would be 2.65%. And then if we did a 1-year classic adjustable, the rate would be 2.52. No, that would equate to a rate of 2.19. But 1-year adjustable would be, I think, too difficult for us based on our budget year to budget the correct amount of interest every year, because it would be all over and our budget cycle wouldn't handle that.
Okay.
So those are the proposals that I have right now.
Okay, discussion?
So you're saying that you would recommend Optima?
I would recommend Optima Bank on their proposal 3 with the 10-year adjustable. And that's with a 10-year, depending on how the town's finances are doing, we can look at with fund balance, maybe finishing off the Dearborn Road project with fund balance. There's no prepayment penalty in saving that amount of interest.
Well, I would say if we do a bond, that the option 3 would, that's what it looks like, from Optima. Looks like.
Right, we can continue another meeting and see if Providence submits a proposal, or if anyone else gets back to us. But interest rates did just go up again. We had a representative from the Public Deposit Investment Pool here today, Beth Bartlett, because the treasurer is looking at doing some additional investment of our cash flow, our liquid cash, through PDIP. And their current rate is 1.86% on deposits, which is, I mean, it's not 5% that we used to get, but it's more than the fractions of percentages we had been getting.
And trending up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I think we should wait for Providence, somebody else to come in.
Put this off for another meeting and see if we can get another one.
I think so.
Sure.
Marcia McLaughlin, can you just explain when you say a 10-year adjustable, it would adjust at the 10th year for the next?
For the final 10.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure, since it's not a mortgage, that I'm still understanding it's.
Right, it's just so that it's easier to plan and budget for.
Yeah, the only concern there is it has no caps. It's a complete floating rate. So there's no, at each adjustment, there's no cap, and there's no cap over the life of the loan.
Right. That's why only one adjustment is the safest.
Yeah.
And there would be no pre-penalty clause either, prepayment clause penalty. So at that point, you could refinance the balance if you wanted to.
That I think we've got to check, because almost every municipal bond does have a prepayment penalty.
Well, because I know on the one we have now, we made sure that we did not.
But these longer term ones, almost every one of them does have a penalty.
Okay.
Because investors are relying upon that stream of income.
Okay.
They say if prepayment penalties none
Right.
on Northway.
But under adjustables, we're careful.
Yeah, on the it also says prepayment fee none.
Okay. Well, that's
different.
That is, okay. Okay, I think our consensus is to wait. Okay, but
And then after that, we probably should start to make some decisions.
Yeah, and I will tell you in all fairness where I'm coming from. I will not be voting in favor of this regardless of the rates, because I think the underlying project itself is not sound. I'm very, very concerned about title. I'm very concerned about the amount of variance that this project has from our normal site review regulations. And as a result of that, I cannot support the concept that we have in front of us. I could tell you where all those different variances are, and they really are substantial. But there's just no way that I could support a project where you have a proposal to put 9,000 square feet on a 13,000 square foot lot, 5-foot setbacks. Our subdivision and site review regulations indicate that when you have a non-residential use abutting a residential use, you should have a 25-foot buffer. I'm very concerned about septic. And the reason I'm concerned about septic is I did just some quick looking. Under DES regulations, if you have the best soil, it will take a maximum loading of 2,000 gallons per day per acre. This is a third of an acre. So that parcel, that entire parcel, take a maximum loading of 600 gallons per day. And it already takes the loading from the church. And so therefore, I don't know how we could possibly have this type of a structure with potentially 100 people in there and say that we would limit ourselves and be within that 600 gallon per day limit. Now, I understand, that it's not going to be loading all day long, but then again, the maximum loading per acre understands that you don't have water out there 24 hours a day. It's dealing with that. So I think we've got some really substantial limits here that make the underlying concept unsound. So I just, as we go forward, unless those things are solved somehow, and I don't see how you can solve that problem, I just can't vote to proceed on the underlying concept. But that's me.
And I've talked to 3 planning board members myself on this issue too, and they have a lot of questions that are just unanswered. Now, we have a planning board and we have a building inspector that are here to keep the structures in this town safe, to keep the buildings in this town safe and everything else. And each one of them has said to me, there's just too many questions out there. Stormwater, drainage, parking, and, backing out into a major highway. Has there ever been a study by the DOT explaining whether that's safe or not safe? There are just a lot of issues that have that I've heard from these people that we have elected to, do a job for us. And
Yes, and now I recognize that we don't have to comply with every aspect of the zoning ordinance, but the issues that are in our subdivision and site plan review regulations are there for a reason. Okay, and if we do vary from them, we should have a good reason. And these are just too substantial for me. So I don't for a moment dispute that there is a need for an improved library program and an improved building, all of that. I don't, and I wish I could be, more positive about this, but I can't. I'm speaking for myself. But anyway, as we go forward, information comes in, the board will make a choice, but that's where I am.
I just don't understand, Paul. Is there any way that you're ever gonna be in favor of this at that location?
It isn't so much that, it's the size of it. I do think that there are things that could be done on that site where we wouldn't be doing such violence to our regulations. It would be a smaller addition, but I think something could be done. But this is, to me, just so pushing the site. I can't.
They have, you have a fund, a building fund, correct? Yeah. Reserve fund? Should they be looking at doing some of the basic background work, the test pits and stuff like that to see what they actually can get done? Should we be setting up a payment plan so they can go forward with that? Because no matter what they do, they gotta dig test pits. If they decide they can't do it, they have to small down.
I would certainly support learning as much about the site as possible.
I believe that they're scheduled for this coming month, aren't they?
Yes.
And I absolutely believe we should learn as much about the site as
So
possible.
we have approved Paul being able to do that? I can't remember.
Yes.
We already
You did, okay.
Yes, we did. So,
Yeah, I think we get, they act that way rather than go for the actual design of the building. Let's see what they've got to work with and take it from there.
and see if the performance characteristics, stop it there. I don't know. But,
Because I'm basically torn. We got 3/5 of the people saying they want it. I know I personally didn't feel it was the right size building either, but I'm not gonna tell those people, no, we're not gonna do something. But if you do, I better have a good damn reason not to, not I think.
And
I gotta know.
And I appreciate that's why there's 5 of us.
And keep in mind that as selectmen, we also have an obligation to act in the public's best interest, no matter how the vote goes.
True.
We have to make sure something like that is going to happen, that it's happening right, not,
Well, we've had, they've hired professionals that have said that this is gonna work. Now, how much we can go back on them, I don't know, but, I mean, this isn't just a willy-nilly thing. They've been hiring people who build these things and have worked with this, and they have said that it's gonna work. It's not the ideal, perhaps, but, a lot of things can happen in the next year or two.
I've never wavered. I'm against the site. I have since the day I got into this. It can be done. Yes, it can be done. Should it be done? I don't believe so. Anything can be done. It can be built. It can. If you've got enough money, you can make water flow any way you want. You can make it happen with enough money. But to me, it's a. If I wanted to build a building like that, I couldn't do it. It's an insult to anybody building a building in this town because it's just too big a building on that spot. I want a new library for my kids. I want a new library for the whole town. I don't want a library there. And I back.
Well, the majority of the townspeople do want it there.
And I do understand that, but I do not believe it's feasible. I go back to there's too many entities involved. There's no parking. I was invited to a meeting at the church building Monday night, and I parked in the school, and it was packed. And I walked, and it wasn't winter, and I thought about it. I wouldn't want my grandmother walking down here at night in January, slipping on the sidewalk. So, I mean, it's just, why? Why does it have to be forced there? And the townspeople voted for a new library, not necessarily that photo or concept that was provided, correct?
No, that is what they voted for,
Okay,
Chester.
okay.
Is that
I'm asking.
concept planned on
I'm
that
asking.
site?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm just.
That's okay.
They did a good job selling it, is what it boiled down to, and they succeeded in selling it to the people.
Absolutely.
And that's
They did a
my,
great job.
that's my big problem. I'm not gonna tell them, no, we're not gonna do it. If there's a major problem, they can't do it, that's one thing, but if it's just, I think, I can't go along with that.
But to me, it's that they proved that they could do it, and not that they should do it, that's all. It can happen, but.
well, again, since I started all this, I don't for a moment want to question anyone's good faith.
No,
I don't.
Not at all.
But I have to take what I believe to be my role, which is to serve as a check and balance. With the experience that I have on planning board, seeing what other buildings are like, I cannot support this concept. I can't. So
I would like to say that the library did the best job that they could, and absolutely 100% great work, proving that it can be done.
Yeah, but I've probably said too much already, but that's fine. But again, that's just where I am. And I hope that the testing comes back, and if something proves me wrong, I'm certainly willing to be proven wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong.
So two of the problems is septic and drainage is what we're looking at right now.
Oh, no, and the size of the building is too large, and what else?
Parking.
Parking, no,
Setbacks,
yeah.
all of the performance characteristics in the subdivision regulations.
Well, all I can say, and excuse me, I'm,
It's okay, you can be angry at me.
no, I'm not angry. Paul, I like you as a person, I really do. I'm very distressed at your attitude toward the library as a whole. That's
okay.
a totally separate issue, because I do like you as a person. I just have trouble with you with the library. However, I don't remember what I was gonna say.
And that's okay to be upset, that's fine. I just wanted to give you as much notice as I possibly could.
Paul, I knew that that would be your vote regardless of what we got through, because I don't feel you've ever been a supporter for any addition of improvement to the library. I know what I was going to say though, is that when we canvassed the citizens, the majority of the people did tell us that they wanted us to retain the library with an addition at its current site.
Okay.
When we were told that the area that would be available down here was basically the same square footage we have right now, there would be no reason to come down here. And that was a good part of the reason why we opted to make the decision to stay there. And Jim was not necessarily supportive of that at the time that we made that vote, but I think he understands now. There is no place down here for a library the size that we would need, that we would want for this community to have, and at an affordable price.
And when we get our testing back on the site that you proposed, I guess we'll see what we can do.
And that's the other part of it, that maybe if there are 3 selectmen and 1, 2, 3 who are gonna vote against it anyway, we may need to look at how much we take off the building in order to satisfy you all. I don't know. And Chester, I do know, please don't turn in your library card if we do actually build this building.
Wow, I would not. I'm supportive of the library, I am, I'm not supportive
I
of the
know
site,
you
and
said
I've never
that.
wavered,
And I
ever.
know you told me that.
I told you that the day I met you.
Right, you did.
I did.
You did. So, thank you, you guys. I will take this back to the trustees, believe me. I will take it back to our building committee.
And I hope you and Jim both, please explain, what we have said.
Well, the recording will be available how soon?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. I will see to it that our trustees and building committee hear it tomorrow.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I await the testing to see what we can find out, what we can do.
Well, the testing was originally proposed to be done next week, but when we found out that Cow Day is next week, it will not happen. I think it's the following.
Can't have holes in the cows.
Bury the cow once we've got the hole.
I don't think you have to bring that cow in.
So, but thank you.
Be a little later,
No.
that's okay. Okay. And
I'm not mad at you. I'm just, I'm disappointed in the attitude.
Nor I at you. I'm not mad at you either.
Oh, good.
Okay. So I guess we've done about all we can on the library tonight.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, town administrator report.
Any other old business?
Yeah, but
Sorry.
I just got a couple of things here.
Oh, sure.
How are we doing with the letter from the board to the PDA regarding the Lonza?
That's already gone.
That's gone out? When did that go out?
2 weeks ago? Week and a half ago?
Is there usually, what's the usual turnaround time for a response on that?
When they have their meeting, then they'll read it into their minutes and make a decision.
Okay, do you know when your next meeting is?
I believe the meeting is Thursday?
I
Wednesday,
thought somebody told me
Thursday?
Thursday, but I'm not
I
gonna
think
bet my
it's
life on it.
Thursday.
Okay,
The only thing they've had so far is just their design technical.
okay. I just think it's a good idea to stay on top of this. It's gonna have a big impact on this town.
Correct.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up was, you and Chester got my email about Captain Megan Martin. I sent an email out to you guys saying that I wouldn't be able to do it, and gave you her email address and everything, so you could contact her, because I know both of you are interested in going.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that.
No, I didn't send it to you, I sent it to, because I know you couldn't make it,
Not
and
really.
Chip said he couldn't make it.
Right.
So I sent it to Jim and to Chester.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure my schedule comes out tomorrow.
Well, we should respond to her, and you two indicated that you wanted to go, so at least, if nothing else, respond to her and say, thank you for the invitation, we either can or can't make it.
It's not a wing seat, Jim.
I respectfully decline.
Yeah.
I've already
Just
got
make
up.
sure. Yeah.
It gets boring after a while, doesn't it?
Are we still under old business?
Yes.
I would just like to thank Karen for contacting the paper in regards to Paul Hughes' obituary. That seemed to do the trick. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
The status of the town car repair, when it was hit by the fireman, is still parked out there with.
It's still parked out there like that. The building inspector's been using it
Right.
as is. He replaced the light bulb. I have not heard back from Metropolitan Insurance, which is the fireman's insurance carrier. He said that it's private insurance, right. Primex has said that they won't do anything, that it definitely has to go through his insurance.
Okay.
I talked with the fireman last week, when I talked to you, and he said that the agent had been trying to reach you.
But I've never had a contact from anybody.
Right, so we have to shake the fireman again and I want
Okay,
the
so-
contact person from the insurance company.
It's ongoing, because it's been a little bit.
It is ongoing, but I don't have the contact person, the name or the number to call,
Oh,
so, of his insurance company. He said, oh, yeah, it's all taken care of, they've been trying to reach Paul to coordinate, and
I've never had a message, email, nothing, so.
so we gotta shake the,
okay.
Mr. Izzo who did it.
And then Coastal Way, right? Is that the one that was seal coated?
Well, we did that
Yeah, we
experimental
should
thing, yeah.
Talk about it again in the spring. I haven't been down, I drove by it today and it popped in my head, and I said, I'm gonna bring that up tonight and say,
I've
is that
asked,
something we'd redo again in the future, or what is it? was it-
no. I would say, no, that was a one-time deal. It was way too many headaches.
Right.
So,
What do you think though, because they did say, give it some time, right?
if you look
I
at
haven't looked at it, to be honest
if
with
you
you.
drive down there, it's done what they said it would do. But for the
get to that,
aggravation,
yeah.
and they didn't do it the way they said they were gonna do it,
Right,
it just created so much problems.
right, I remember.
So, it did work to my estimate,
Right, but they get there.
but the aggravation that went with it the weeks afterwards, I don't wanna go through that again.
Right. That's it, I was just curious about that. No other old business for me.
Anyone else? If not, Karen's report.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, the first one is that Brownie Troop donation, which we've taken care of. The revaluation, and I have more information to add to this from last week. Most of the commercial revaluation has been completed with the work on the tables. And he was going to be starting field review on Friday, which did not happen. And the residential is ready to start field review as well. On Friday, was it a Friday? Oh, no, on Tuesday, Mr. Traub was in the commercial appraiser and went to do the recalculation to send all the work that both the assessors have done in the sales analysis file, to send those tables over to the master file. It would not recalculate. There was an error within the system that no data was found, so it didn't work. So we got Vision, the software provider, on support, and on Tuesday they downloaded all of the data that we have to their system, said that they would get it fixed and get it back to me in the morning. I didn't hear anything back. I've been in contact with them every day now. On Friday, they said that, okay, this is the problem, there's errors in the table, and when the tables were transferred over, it blew up some of the data. So we need to go back to prior to the table analysis work that was done, which was May 25th from one of our backups. So they did that. So they reverted it all back to May 25th and told me to hand enter the data that from May 25th to June 6th or June 5th by hand directly into the master file and into the sales file separately rather than trying to have it transfer from one file to the other, which I did. It still would not recalculate. And I redid that work between Friday night and most of Sunday. So it didn't work. I sent them an email on Sunday night so they would all have it first thing this morning. That did not work. There's still something wrong within the software program that it won't recalculate. So they came back online with me this morning into the server and into the desktop and redid it again, pulled the data back from May 11th and pulled that back. Said they had it fixed at that point. So today I've been redoing the data from May 11th again through June 6th. And I'm not complete that work yet. I did the tables for some of the valuations into the master file and tested it, and that did recalculate. And so now I'm doing a table at a time and recalculating it. So that if there's a table, there's got to be one table that's throwing it. And so I'm just doing it one table at a time into the master file. When I get that complete, then I'll go back and do those same things back into the sales analysis file. So it's labor intensive. Our residential assessor has 2 days a week that he can work on this. His intent was to come last Friday, which he wasn't able to do because we were still in this mess. So he went to Hampton Falls instead. He usually comes in Tuesdays and Fridays. He won't be coming in this Tuesday either. So there's 2 days that he's lost, and he's already saying we're going to have to look at extending the contract further in, which there's a little bit of space there, but if we can't get this resolved quickly, we're going to run too close to September 1st as far as MS1 and tax rates. We have to get letters sent out. We're just going to really compress the time. I had allowed like 10 days from their finish of field work for the data entry because we have to do data entry to all 1,800 properties with updates, change of pictures, new values, letters sent out to the owners with what their new value is. Set up hearing dates for those that are in disagreement of their rates, and then finalize the rate. So revaluation is a lot of work that just got quadrupled. So that's where we are. That's probably going to be the majority of my work I'm supposed to be at a conference Wednesday through Friday for the Municipal Managers Association. Fortunately, it's in Portsmouth, so I can go to the session and work before and after.
You mentioned backup. When you're posting, doing these changes, are you backing up daily?
Mm-hmm. It backs up at 3 a.m. every single day.
But they had to have you back to May 11th?
Yeah, that was where they could find the last good, and that's when the residential assessor started his work in the tables. And he transferred the tables as they stood from the master file to the sales analysis file, which hadn't been used since 2013's reval. The sales analysis file was only used every 5 years. In 2013, we had almost the exact same problem. And that's what Vision has said, oh, you had this problem in 2013. I'm like, yes. And we spent days and days with Dell working on it, and it was resolved. So whatever it was, you didn't fix it into the system, and now we're doing it again. We are on the older version of Vision. The new version came out last year. They recommended, NDRA recommended, that you do not upgrade to the new version until your reval is complete. So we intentionally didn't, which fortunately we didn't, because it was $20,000 for the new version. They've now reduced it to $10,000 because a good number of towns have moved away from Vision and have gone to the Avatar program. So,
Because this doesn't happen.
because this doesn't happen, Vision talks to our current system that we use for the tax system. Avatar has a proprietary system that the towns that have switched over to the Avatar system, tax collecting was already on Avatar. And so there's just a lot of decisions to make when the revaluation is done next year. Not right now. We cannot make any changes in either system now. We have to finish this revaluation.
Do you need any temporary data help for data entry? Or is it too much of a learning curve and too many opportunities for mistakes?
Is this something that Charlotte or Marge or Amy could help you with?
No, Charlotte could help me with it. Marge and Amy cannot because they cannot have permissions into the Vision system to make changes because they do handle tax collection. So that's a conflict of interest. It's
The internal control.
internal control. That they both have the programs on their desktop for view only. And they can print cards out for residents. But no, they cannot do the data entry. The key is only one terminal can be in Vision doing these at one time. So that runs into the problem. So I've been just plugging away at it. And I have to have everyone else out of Vision at the same time.
You need my help?
No. No, there's a couple things on my board that selectmen have written that you could do, and I need some signs made, but that's beside the point. And I need a sign moved. The kind of ugly sign that says, "Warning, security."
Yeah.
Can you move that down by the salt?
Yeah, good idea.
I have one down by the salt.
All right, well, move it
We'll
away
move
from
that
the
down
front
there
door.
too.
You told me to help one for the entrance here.
Yeah, not that one. A kindler, gentler one.
That was the one you gave me.
Yeah, because my intention was those were for the
Okay.
salt area.
I'll remove that.
Those are where people are screwing off, so they don't screw off.
Yeah, and they don't steal the salt. I want something that maybe just shows the
Or something-
camera.
Smile.
All right. Those are the ones I was given, so I put it
Right,
up.
surveillance in use.
Okay,
That's just like, it gives a very negative feeling walking up to the building.
all right.
Go by Tommy Mars and look at his sign.
Well, I personally don't care. I just assume it was a negative.
It's just, I've had a lot of complaints that it's like in your face sign.
Well, yeah, it is.
And,
But
you know,
that's because surveillance is occurring.
right, and we are going to discuss
I think
that
the
in
temporary look of the
non-public
sign.
at the end. We do need to discuss permission to use a clip from the
I
surveillance.
prefer to see one that just says, "Welcome, you're on candid camera."
Right, or
What's
just
wrong with
like,
that?
you know, a picture of a camera,
Smile.
surveillance in
Show a
use.
picture of the camera.
Right.
Maybe.
But just kindler,
That's what they have.
gentler.
All right. That's what I was given, so I put it up.
Okay, so then we talked about the library bond. EMS warm zone grant, we did get the grant. I applied for an EMS warm zone grant for ballistic vests and helmets for the fire department. The grants were up to $5,000. We received the grant in the amount of $4,889.
99.
$899, yep. So the equipment has been ordered, received, and that paperwork has been sent to the state for full reimbursement. And while we're on for grants, FEMA, the president approved our last storm for FEMA reimbursement. That paperwork has been put together, so we'll be getting some funds back into our snow budget. Not a lot, but we'll get some. And Conservation Commission intern, when the chairman, Laura Biego, was in with the board and met for an update back several meetings ago, she talked about the potential of an intern helping them monitor the conservation land this summer.
What does that mean? Monitor the conservation?
Nobody takes it.
Huh?
No, it means that people are not encroaching upon.
It's not encroaching, not abusing it. Some of the stuff, like they'll tear down that porch and throw it in the conservation property. stuff like that.
Dumping
And by statute,
materials.
they're supposed to look at it once a year.
Once a
No,
year?
nobody's ever gonna take the land.
They're gonna catch them by going down there once a year and looking at them? There's all the trash, there's all the litter.
Yes.
That's
and we'll
basically
get
how
it
it's done, and
yes.
usually just knock on the door and say, hey, you can't do that, take it to the dump.
Right.
It just seems, I don't know, it seems like a bureaucratic position to me.
Well, you'd be amazed the number of people that extend their backyards into land they don't own.
Right.
And use it to dump their grass and make piles of it. That's already happening off the back of Van Etten.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, fire rings, all sorts of other things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's, the Hampton Conservation Commission was doing the same thing. They passed along 2 candidates that they did not hire to Laura because she had said that Greenland was looking at doing the same thing. One of the candidates actually is from Greenland and grew up here, lives on Portsmouth Ave. His name is Joshua Churchill. I met with him on Friday to discuss the position. He is on summer break from college studying forestry and wildlife management. And he's working at Home Depot at night just doing unloading of trucks. So he is very excited to be able to do this project. He'll do it for about 3 weeks. It's $12 an hour for a total of 120 hours. He will go out and look at every piece of conservation land and write it up, whether it's having a problem with invasive species, whether there's dumping going on, whether there's encroachment going on, whether the trees are showing signs of disease, things that the Conservation Commission should be made aware of and determine what actions may or may not need to be taken. So the Conservation Commission is meeting with him at their next meeting. But so prior to that, they wanted me to meet with him, see if he seemed like he met the needs of the town, which he absolutely does. He lives 2 houses up here. Great guy. So he has filled out the paperwork for the background check, and that has gone in. I have not received his background check back yet. And we're doing the background check basically because even though he's going to be on public land, some of the public land he has to access by going through private land to get to it. And so once the Conservation Commission meets with them, and they determine if he meets their need and they want to move forward with this project, then they will come to the Board of Selectmen for the official hire. And the funds are available through the warrant article for the maintenance of all the conservation lands.
How long is that gonna take?
How long is 2 more weeks they're meeting next week, so then he'll be meeting with us the first week of July.
The background check will be,
It should be in next week.
it should be, yeah.
And it's just the basic criminal, it's not the polygraph and all that.
I personally would be very comfortable that upon approval of the Conservation Commission, we delegate you the authority to hire and let it begin.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, so that's the update on my weekly report.
Okay. Now moving on to new with veterans credits.
Yep, we have 3 credits for the 2019 year. One is for a surviving spouse of a veteran who was killed in the line of duty. And then we have 2 that are, one is all veterans and one is the regular veterans credit.
I'll make a motion to approve the all veterans tax credit in the amount of $500 for the resident of 507 Portsmouth Avenue, effective 2019.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I'll move to approve the veterans tax credit in the amount of $500 for the resident of 29 Cherry Hill Drive, effective 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to approve the veterans tax credit for the surviving spouse in the amount of $2,000 for the resident of 66 Cherry Hill Drive, effective 2019.
Second.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So we will be signing those documents. While that's going around, any other items of new business? Yes.
Alan Smith approached me about selling the town some land for a future cemetery. And it happens to be right near the Colonel March tomb. And how do we go about talking about this? Does he come in front of the board, or does he see your agent and get a price, fair market value? I don't know.
Is that the land the tomb is on?
Yes.
It's on it, yeah?
The Colonel March's tomb is actually on the parcel they want to sell us.
He talked about that a few years back too. Good, good.
Okay, when we think about it, this I take it is probably part of the farm, and so it's not subdivided off.
Correct.
Okay.
It's actually behind Patterson's house, would be the entrance in that area there.
Okay.
Does it have road frontage to get to it?
There is a road access, yes.
Has anybody ever seen that?
Yes.
Yeah, it gets kind of wet, so that's why I'm kind of wondering if that, is gonna work for us.
The cemetery trustees could have somebody,
Poke around the backhoe?
well, that knows cemetery requirements to see if it's suitable.
Could be used for Freeman remains.
Right,
We also,
That's the way most people are going.
right, a columbarium.
before you,
Don't laugh.
We have a joke about this, because back when Karen first started, I used the word columbarium. She said, what do you mean columbarium?
And I was like, call them and bury them?
Well, did you hear about the meeting in Rye about green burials?
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Oh, no.
what about the property that they leveled off, Paul? Did you guys take into effect that might be something you could take over?
Where are you?
Back in the dump there, where they leveled off that hill.
That is supposed to be for future use of the dirt if we need it. I mean, it would be tough. It's so much lower than the cemetery itself. Worst case scenario, we do have that lot of land to the right-hand side going up into the cemetery in the woods there. I wouldn't want to go too far back in for certain reasons, but,
Yeah, don't dig deep.
well, we gotta go 6 feet.
Yeah, I remember when we used to
Yeah,
throw our trash from up on the cemetery.
that back gate.
Yeah.
But he approached me about this, and I just wanted to see what, before I go to the cemetery committee, what we need to do.
Well, the first thing might be just inspecting for suitability, but then it would be a question, if it was found to be suitable, we'd have to do a subdivision to take that amount of land off. We'd have to figure out what a fair market value is by means of an appraisal, and then warrant article for purchase price.
And that's in current use, isn't it?
And if it is, then because it would go for municipal use, we could waive it.
Okay.
All right.
Now, usually cemeteries want to be 2 acres or so.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking at 13 to 15 acres.
Oh, we might not need all that.
But then again, it
Yeah.
depends on suitability and wetland.
Yeah, the closer you get down towards Cresswell, the much wetter that gets.
Yes. If I remember, the tomb's on the knoll there, that
Yeah.
little knoll.
Yeah, and then it goes down and then back up again.
Is this near the power line easement?
Yes.
So that, of course, is a large easement going through there.
Yeah.
It's not just what you see as the poles.
No, it's usually 175 feet, depending on how many lines there are.
It's either 150 or 300.
If you come in and look at that Patterson subdivision, I think it does show the easement on those.
All right, yeah, I just want to make sure before I give them any information what we had to do as a cemetery committee.
Because there had been another parcel on the left-hand side going into the dump that we'd investigated in the past until the backhoe hit ledge at about 18 inches, which was not going to work. So that kind of suitability. If he wouldn't mind some test pits.
All right.
Sure.
While we were here, I understand we had a load rejected for contamination of recycling.
It wasn't rejected, they're going by contamination levels. And my understanding, somebody threw some regular trash bags in there.
Okay. But
the penalty was like $400 for that load.
Do we have to pay that?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so that being the case, obviously, we can't sustain that kind of loss every week.
I think it's the first time we've been penalized.
They just started doing it last month.
And if you look at other things with 0%.
Right.
And I'll stick up for my guys on this. We just had the ACs and refrigerators done, so they were busy with them. So they were kind of tied up with that when this probably happened.
I don't mean to get after them. It's more of an education for people in the community to understand.
They have caught a lot of people in the last month and a half throwing trash in the recycling. A lot of new places. And we got the signage. As you go up there, the first 2 containers is trash only, recycling's out back, what you can throw.
Yeah, that's not what he's saying. He's saying we're talking about trying to educate the public to not be doing this anymore. We know the guys do a good job.
Yeah, but when they come in here as new residents to get the sticker, we give them the pamphlets. I explain to them how it works and how to separate the trash and how to bring it up there. I mean, to me, we educate them from the time they come into this town hall until they get up there.
Right, we put it onto the Facebook page. It actually beat out the post for pickleball, which had been our highest performing post.
Yeah.
And it beat that out. It's been shared and copied and sent around to a lot of people. I want to say the last time I checked it on Sunday, it had like 600 views. So 600 out of,
Do we have some information on there that because someone contaminated this load, you are $400 poorer this week?
What I put was,
Right.
it was contaminated and the town has received a significant fine.
I'd give them the dollar, because if it happens in $400 a week, that's $20,000 a year.
And that gets emptied once a week. So
Right, there were two loads for the month. One load had 0% contamination, the other load had 20% contamination. So they charged us based on the 10% level. And that was, yeah.
It was $55 a ton for an 8-ton load. Yes.
Right, and it goes up, the higher the percentage, bigger the fine.
Right. When they say 20% contamination, I mean, are we talking one bag of trash like a?
Well, most likely it got ripped open because it's under pressure.
Yeah.
So it got spread out throughout the load. So if it happened late, say late on we call it in on Wednesdays. So say it happened late Wednesday afternoon, less contamination because it's only getting pushed in so far.
Is this what are we talking about?
The recycling container.
The one where the 2 guys, one on each side?
Yeah.
And they're in there picking out box tops and everything else.
Right.
Every time I've been up there, they've been doing it.
Right, like I
It's a
said,
thorough job.
that was the day they were doing the ACs and refrigerators.
So they weren't there by the.
Maybe only one of them was at the time, and if somebody came in with some debris, you might not have somebody there for a little bit.
And I don't mean to get after the guys, that's not the point. Right.
Those guys do a great job in that recycling.
There are enough guys.
It's trying to tell citizens.
On a Wednesday, yeah.
It's trying to tell citizens what this means.
Yeah.
And that if it continues, then the world gets tougher.
Well, I know for a fact that there's an individual in town who has dementia problems.
I know who you're talking about, yes.
And I'm not mentioning names, but
He's almost to the point where he shouldn't be driving.
Right. And
He's coming up the wrong way, he's confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's one of the guys
You can put out
that,
all the information you want, and it's not gonna change.
and he is one of the guys, when he shows up now, they actually grab the bags and walk it down and put them in the right spot.
Because they understand.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to do whatever we can to prevent the problem.
And I think we do everything possible we can. I mean, somebody's gonna sneak something in there.
Right.
No matter how hard we try.
Yeah. Because with the way the recycling market is going, it could mean the end of single stream.
Yes, and it's pretty ugly when I go to these classes. And what the incredible part about it, we're making a killing on the other end.
Yeah.
The metals we're making.
The aluminum.
No, the metals too.
I do have a question that came up when I was asked about washing out the glass jars. What is the story on that? are they supposed to be clean?
Yes, and some people do, some people don't. There's no rule that says it has to be.
Right, rinse, but it doesn't have to be squeaky clean.
Right.
Just to take out food residue.
Well, don't recycle peanut butter.
Oh, just throw that away. Those are too hot to clean.
Mayonnaise, peanut butter, sticky stuff like.
And a lot of the confusion too is shiny paper is not recyclable. Something with like a wax coating, that confuses a lot of people.
Milk cartons and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's not contaminated stuff, though.
No, they'll
You take your cereal box, just pull out the wax, one that has half, cereal still in it, throw that away, recycle the box.
If you look at our numbers throughout, since we've done single stream and set up there, we're actually got really great numbers. And I mean, that was a rare occasion.
Yeah. It's just we have to keep a real vigilant eye on it.
Yeah.
Because if we.
And those guys have already been made aware of it.
If we let down our guard, then everything gets lost.
Yeah. Okay. And Chip, you can't blame Charlotte. It's up to you too.
That was actually Kathy. I
Okay, anyone have any other items of new business? If not, move on to manifest.
Not new business, but I need to get back to the snowplow contract.
Yeah.
New policy liaison. I know we've reorganized and we've gotten very busy and I have some other things to take care of.
Whenever you guys want to meet.
Well, yeah, because that's got to get out pretty
Right,
fast.
so, I mean, I don't think it's more than a meeting.
Okay.
I'm hoping, we'll see.
The only night I can't do it this week is Thursday.
Yeah, that was Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Doesn't have to be this week. This week or next week sometime. Okay.
You got my number?
Yeah.
Text me.
I get back in
You want to see about?
I'll be glad to help you. I get back.
Anybody else?
5 o'clock.
Can you help?
I can help.
Okay.
We'll work on it.
Next week, any day. I just have an appointment on Thursday of this week.
If you guys want to work on it during a day and then just give me a copy, I'll be glad to comment and get right back to you.
Yeah, all right,
That's fine.
Rapid died.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
If not that, manifest.
Make a motion to approve payroll manifest number 12, pay date June 14, 2018, on the amount of $51,126.02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve manifest of unpaid bill details as of June 14, 2018, in the amount of $191,263.04.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think that's all the manifests we have. Any other items of business to come before us? Not appearing. Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn into a non-public session, please.
Okay.
Don't let Fulton touch that.
I'm not touching anything.
But we can shut it off.
Although I didn't erase it.
No, I didn't get hollered at 10 o'clock.
Just have two very quick items for non-public.
Hold on.
Oh, I could have done that.
Just leave it off.